What's up, meatards? How's it going, guys? How's my audio? Let's see. Make sure my video's good, audio's good. What's up, beautiful people out there? All you folks eating meat and making families. We got our Eat Meat Make Family shirts. I was wearing it earlier, but I'm not in the mood for this shirt. I was in the mood for grr. I was in too much of a grr mood. Monster Liner sent me this shirt. They so much enjoyed my the job that we did on the blazer with the Monster Liner. The world's, what do they call it? They say screw paint Monster Line it. Check out the back of it. It's a cool shirt. Kind of like the rat fink. You guys remember the old Santa Cruz skate? You guys remember the old Santa Cruz skateboards? Old Santa Cruz skateboards graphics back in the day. Used to have the rat fink artist. So yeah, guys, it's that kind of day. It's another Eat Me Make Family stream. I've got just way too many things pulled up here. All right, let me clear this out. I got a bunch of tabs pulled up. Oh my goodness, get out of here. So let's get rolling, guys. Eat meat, make families. Today, what do we have on the agenda? Today, I said we were going to talk about. We're going to talk about whatever comes to mind, right? Whatever you guys want to talk about. But also, keto-carnivore, doing it right. The carnivore diet, the so-called the carnivore diet. What is the carnivore diet, guys? What is it? I don't know what the carnivore diet is. Just like I don't know what the keto diet is, right? I've been doing a ketogenic diet for over 5 years now, and I hear 100 different opinions on the best way to do keto. There's 100 different opinions on the best way to do a so-called carnivore diet. We've been talking a lot about different modalities used in different cultures across history and across the globe, different ways that people have prepared foods, have prepared meat. We were looking at nutrition and physical degeneration by Dr. Weston A. Price, where he went around and he looked at all these cultures, all these native and indigenous cultures around the world before they were invaded by the foods of modernity, what he called the foods of commerce. And what his book actually shows is these are more than just the foods of commerce. These are the foods of genocide. These are the foods, the wheat, the corn, the soy, the processed, refined junk foods, these enlightened plant-based foods, the plant-based foods that people like Klaus are always talking about in your plant-based diet. You know, the guys like Dr. Joel Cohn, right? One of the most intellectually dishonest proponents of veganism in the world, talking about, writing entire books about veganism gives you better boners. You know, these are the foods, these highly processed, refined plant-based foods. These are the foods pushed by the Fortune 100, by big ag, by big industry, in order to consolidate all the food supply and all of the resources on this beautiful earth we live on. So, let's see. Last week, we were talking a little bit about Cargill, the world's biggest grain importer and exporter in the world. American-based company, global company now, heavily involved in the U.S. State Department, really involved with Henry Kissinger. And during the Nixon administration, Cargill was basically penning public policy and international geopolitical policy in order to consolidate the market. So Cargill now owns over 50% of the international grain trade market. Cargill runs more than 50% of the international grain market. How insane is that? One company, 50% of the international grain trade. And now these organizations are moving through NGOs, through celebrities. You know, we all know that all the celebrities, they all love the vegan diet. Let me make sure. It says my stream status is bad. Let me check my OBS settings here. One moment, guys. Let me just decrease the output, decrease my bit rate, and see if that helps. You guys, let me know if the video and audio gets desynced or too choppy. Sometimes I might have to cut this out. Sometimes my internet's not sufficient. Who knows? Let me make sure I don't have any extra programs open that are going to be sapping my bandwidth. But anyways, we talked about a lot of stuff in the last few weeks, and today we're going to talk a little bit about a keto carnivore style diet. So a lot of people are talking about carnivore. a lot of the proponents of carnivore are talking about just eating muscle meat, strictly steaks, an all steak diet. And I think this is an interesting phenomenon. Look, if you want to eat all steak, all good. You want to just eat a diet of ribeyes, that's really cool. Check it out. You guys want to see Ribeye the pit bull? What's up, buddy? Come here. He's sleeping under the desk here. I'm gonna wake him up. What's up, boy? Hey, buddy. Kind of surprising, huh? So Ribeye is we've had him for a little over 3 weeks, and he's tripled his weight. He's eating all meat. What's up, dude? He's a good little puppy. Look at that boy. He's a good boy. He'll just chill in my lap for a little bit. He'll keep me warm. I need some puppy snuggles. So when I do this content, sometimes it does upset me. Sometimes it does get a little bit, obnoxious. People are more concerned with celebrity gossip. People are more concerned with acting cool and cute on social media. People are more concerned with all the nonsense given to them by media, by the mainstream media, which now is social media, right? People don't care about the mass censorship of the internet now. People don't care about people getting deplatformed for simply speaking words, right? And it is upsetting. It can actually get it can be exhausting doing these streams too. 3 hours plus live streams when I can just put out some 10-minute throwaway video and it'll get 10 times as many views and 10 times as good of a response because people want fluff pop content. People want Quest bar reviews. But we're not here to give you bullshit, right? We're here to give you truth. We're here to reflect reality. We're not here to be cute and pretend everything's cool. It's all cool, dude. Just do your own thing, bro. What does it matter if society's totally degenerating and everybody's becoming little soy boys? It doesn't matter, dude. Just do your own thing. No, this affects us. This affects you. This affects me. This affects my children. It affects your children. And it's important that we discuss real issues. We discuss what's true and what's real. Because there is truth. There is objective truth. There is objectively real phenomena. There is objective reality. But people are so busy worshiping all these idols, worshiping false gods, that they forget about what's real and what's important. What's up, Ryder? There's a good kid right here. Coming to cheer me up. Says, it's all good, Daddy. It's all good. All right, let's talk about how to do a keto carnivore diet right. Let's talk about doing a keto and carnivore diet. So a lot of people doing carnivore, just eating a bunch of muscle meat. And while obviously many people are getting some results with that, many people are getting some results, I don't think that it's the ideal way to go about it. So there's this group, Paleo Medicine, out of Hungary, what is this? My upper left corner. I don't know what that is. I'll just throw it off the screen. Anyways, Paleo Medicine group. They actually are promoting a diet that's really similar to what we do. Check it out. We got Jessica here. Oh. Uh-oh. We got Jessica. Do some good cop, bad cop. Got Jessica here. So yeah, Paleo Medicine, they published this article. A child with type 1 diabetes mellitus successfully treated with the Paleolithic ketogenic diet, a 19-month insulin freedom. So this is a type 1 diabetic. And these guys actually teach a what they call it, a Paleolithic ketogenic diet, which is essentially a all meat-based, all animal food-based diet based on meat and fat with zero fiber. And this is what they're teaching as an ideal way of doing a ketogenic diet, which I have definitely had great success with using a template so similar to this, which is why I'm so excited to find a group that's actually promoting something similar. And essentially the diet that they give this boy, who's 9 years old with type 1 diabetes, they give this boy a diet of all meat and fat and organ meats. You want to come talk? Or you guys go take care of that for a minute and then you come back. And we'll talk about the Keto Collective, the Keto and Carnivore Collective for September.
They just both want to sit on my lap.
The kids just always want mama.
I'm sitting on a bouncy ball.
All right, wait. I'm close. Where's that? Type
we
1.
can stay. I don't want to interrupt.
You're not interrupting. Oh. Mm-hmm. All right, there you go. We got the whole family here. We got the whole Eat Meat Make Families crew.
Mafia.
The Eat Me Make Families Mafia. There you go. Eat Me Make Families Mafioso. So very, very interesting. Paleo Medicine treating a type 1 diabetic with nothing but meat, fat, and organ meats. Now, a lot of people doing just a meat diet. And if you look at across anthropology and history, if you read, like this book, Nutrition and Physical Degeneration by Weston Price, which is this book kind of got us into high-fat eating.
Yeah, it did.
This was like a major influence on us years ago when we first started getting into, first of all, when we transitioned out of a more plant-based diet. When we came out, all the celebrities, they got us so stoked on a plant-based diet. It was just so amazing. No. No, I'm kidding. We weren't into it for celebrities. We thought maybe it was the healthiest way to go, right? We got duped into it. We got duped into doing this plant-based type diets by a lot of the propaganda that was out there, even though we had both always discussed and we knew that most of the stuff that vegans eat are junk food. That veganism is Monsanto's wet dream. Right, getting the whole world to eat your wheat, corn, and soy, getting them eating soy burgers instead of real animal-based nutrition. It was the wet dream of these big ag companies, the Rockefeller Foundation that funded them.
There was a lot going on. It's like we were in college at the time, so we were exposed to. I think we both grew up with a very sugar-heavy mainstream diet with breads and meats and vegetables and sugars and all these processed carbs, crackers and cookies and everything, and sodas, all this stuff. Our schools would have vending machine junk food, just like 50 cents a piece. It's practically free. And then we were in college eating dorm food, and neither of us really knew how to cook or prepare food for ourselves. And so then we started learning and experiencing firsthand how food can so profoundly affect us and our minds and our brains. And so then we just took it to a pretty extreme level, thinking, okay, so we know that we want organic foods, and we know that we want local farmers markets, and we would go to the health food stores. So as far as doing a vegan diet, I think we did the best we could. The best possible. We were supplementing with all this stuff. We were getting the highest quality food. Still the least processed. Learning how to cook and prepare foods for ourselves.
But we would just be craving meat every once in a while. Just we would feel it, and then every once in a while, especially in the beginning, maybe every 2 to 3 months, we would get some grass-fed bison, or we would get fish. We'd get salmon collars. We had a friend that worked at the farmer's market, and he worked with a bunch of fishermen. Shout out to Mike Feldman.
Yeah.
I wonder where Mike is. What do you think Mike's doing?
I think he's surfing on the coast of South Africa.
Yeah, probably
or
surfing.
Australia.
He's crazy.
With Scotty.
Yeah, with Scotty, who got attacked by a great white shark, but still surfs every day.
Mm-hmm.
In Humboldt. Crazy people. This thing's all blurry. I'm trying to fix my camera. So yeah, we got really into health, and we started eliminating all these processed foods, and of course we felt a little bit better. Of course we felt much better on a non-processed based diet. You guys want to scoot this way? We felt far better. But we still would crave the meat, and we would get these salmon collars, and we would eat them, and it would be like our brains turned on again. And we're just like, well, what is going on? We're taking the vegan omega-3 supplements. We're doing this. We're doing that. We're eating
flax crackers.
Eating flax crackers, because some of that can convert to DHA. All this stuff.
Having rice bran protein blends.
Oh man, yeah, the Warrior Protein from what was that company?
Sun Food? No,
Sun
Health
Food?
Force.
Health Force's hemp-based protein.
$70 a bottle. Literally the best option available.
Eating hemp seeds and stuff. Just but of course you did it wrong. You guys were doing it wrong, and then we ended up transitioning to a full-on vegan diet for a while, and things got.
You mean raw vegan?
Well, we weren't ever raw vegan for that long, but we did full vegan for maybe
right.
I don't know, was that a year?
Yeah.
Who knows? It was 2-year period of off and on vegan. So I get never really vegan, of course, the vegans will say. But for at least 9 months to a year, we were full on no meat, no animal products at all. At the end of that, I got so sick and almost died. And
one of the reasons that we didn't do it was just because I didn't know how to prepare the stuff. I think that was one reason. I was learning. We were into the vegan perspective, and so I was learning all about food and nutrition in that niche. So I wasn't even exposed. It always seemed this big mystery. How do you handle meats? How do you handle fish? How do you handle
Well, you get
raw
programmed
chicken?
into thinking that they're unclean. You get programmed to thinking that you can't touch them, that meat is bad, right? So I think when Jessica made the Ketogenic Edge cookbook, that was kind of a therapeutic thing. Like it was, we had spent a couple years kind of recovering from the plant-based diet. It was just so amazing. This dude plant-based diet, like plant-based niche. So it took a long time to actually recover from that. And then we started including organs in the diet, and a lot of this came from nutrition and physical degeneration after our daughter was born and going through certain issues in our family. We discovered that we needed animal products. So, including liver, heart, stuff like that. That's why we put a whole section of, how many organ recipes are there in your book?
This is my favorite section in the whole book, and it has the most recipes per section.
I pretty much wrote the book.
That's not true.
Well, I pretty much wrote a few words in the book, and my name's on the cover of the book. So, whatever.
I was really excited about this section, and I knew that I wanted to include it because it had such a profound impact on our life and our experience.
Trigger warning, Goji.
But it's not mainstream friendly. So I had a little debate, and we were talking about it. Do we put this in? Do we just keep it for ourselves? But we had to put it in. We were just like,
nobody's gonna buy this book.
Yeah,
it's
we were concerned.
The book's all whole, unrefined foods.
Yep.
People want keto junk food. People want keto Quest pizza.
Yeah.
People want peanut butter aspartame fat bombs. But it's cool to know now that there are a lot of people that are going beyond just the Walmart keto, right? You've got Walmart vegan. Veganism is Walmart hacktivism. And then you got people doing Walmart keto. And hey, there's nothing wrong with getting some foods at Walmart. If that's what's around, it's what's around. But we're all about whole, unrefined, nutrient-dense foods. So that was kind of the philosophy behind this book, which we got available in print now. We got it available in print, and it's available on our website. People are saying you should go on Joe Rogan. Yeah, good luck with that. Good luck ever getting me to L.A. Good luck ever getting me into Los Angeles.
I don't think Joe Rogan would interview you.
He wouldn't want. No, he wouldn't put me on his show.
You're too bold.
No, it's just there's no point. There's no point. He wants to talk to celebrity gossip. He wants Neil deGrasse Tyson. He wants to fawn over Neil deGrasse Tyson. Military industrial propagandist Neil deGrasse Tyson, and not defend his friends like Alex Jones being totally deplatformed and censored. Right, like you obviously disagree. Everybody's going to disagree with certain things that people say, right? But to totally be deplatformed, absurd, right? So yeah, I don't know. But what's interesting? Joe Rogan's going to have on Dr. Joel Cohn. Dr. Joel Cohn.
So he can learn the truth.
Yeah, he's going to have a debate. We're going to get another epic vegan versus non-vegan debate, where a vegan ideologue sits there, cherry picks a bunch of fake epidemiological evidence, prostrates before, the China study, and, maybe throws out some one-liners from His Holiness, the Dolly Gregor.
Dolly Gregor? Who is he debating?
Dr. Joel Cohn is going to debate Chris Kresser. Chris Kresser is a pretty clever guy. He seems like a really nice guy. He's a mellow guy. Mm-hmm. They should just have Joel Cohn. They should just have Dr. Shaun Baker go in there and just sit by Joel Cohn. Just sit across from Joel Cohn and just look at him.
Yeah.
Right. And Shaun Baker's like just pretty much no nonsense. Shaun Baker, and they all bashed. You want to see what Joel Cohn said to Shaun Baker on the twatter?
On the bathroom wall of the internet?
Yeah, that's what you stole that from me.
I know.
The bathroom wall of the internet, Twitter. Here, I gotta find the thing. But yeah, talk a little bit more about your book, because we gotta sell some books too. Right? I do these 3-hour streams, and it's like we do have to make a living, guys. So check it out if you're interested in real human nutrition, real keto recipes, not peanut butter fat bombs with aspartame. If you're interested in real good nutrient-dense foods and you want to learn how to make organ meats, we got a whole section on how to make organ meats. Trigger warning. That's not a recipe right there, though. That's just a picture of a heart. And like I said, I basically wrote this book. I took that picture. That's the only picture in the book I took. All right, let me find this. You go ahead and tell the people all kinds of stuff while I talk, or while I look.
All kinds of stuff. We use this book pretty heavily in our keto collective. I'm not
a bad salesman. I don't
what to sell.
No, I don't forget. I just there's so much to talk about. I can't even find the windows that I'm looking for. I got all these freaking windows pulled up. Okay, but yeah, the Keto and Carnivore Collective. Let me pull that up right here. Go ahead and talk about it, girl.
All right, our next session is going to start September 9th. and it's going to run 4 weeks, ending on October 7th.
How was the last session?
It was so much fun.
We're doing 2 months in a row. So
yeah, we just finished it on Sunday, this last Sunday this week. And we have people signing up for the next session. I just printed out Rebecca's questionnaire, and I was giving her some feedback, writing down some notes. And it's such a wonderful experience. And I think she's the perfect candidate for this type of experience. She's a busy, hardworking mom, and she needs it's like people need a strong foundation to stand on so they can go and explore their lives in new ways. You know, so many people are just, we start to get older and we get heavy, we gain weight, we get tired, and we're all discombobulated, and it's like our heads are upside down. We're inflamed. Right? We're like kind of depressed.
You're watching TV news, and then you got to take antidepressants because you're watching the news all day. You're arguing with people on Facebook on whether Trump is the devil or a demigod. You're given all these fake dialectics to look at. You're being pushed. You got Miley Cyrus telling you how to save the world. You get vapid celebrities like Leonardo DiCaprio, who's got a private island. And hangs out with a bunch of freaking pederasts and pedophiles in Hollywood, telling you that you got to go vegan, you got to give up your foods, and you got to stop driving cars to save the planet. Telling you at the UN on behalf of, the Rockefeller Foundation actually donated the land and the money to build the building that the UN sits on. This is just an international conglomerate of, big Fortune 100 execs, so-called fake so-called philanthropists. We're all about resource consolidation. Are telling you what's real, that there's no real morality, and that it's all moral relativism. I'll shut my mouth now. Bunch of bullshit, guys. That's why we say eat meat, make families. Because the family's
the only... all that's going on, but at the same time, we still have our families. We're still surrounded by our children. We have our communities. We have people. We have neighbors still.
You can still have land.
We have to strengthen those bonds.
We got land. We have land with our own spring on it, with 10 cows. Right? We got to build a freaking house on it soon, too.
Yeah.
But what's so much fun about this keto collective is that we get a group.
You can still live. Here, let me finish that thought, though. It's like you could still live. You have all this nonsense going on, but you could still survive. You could still thrive among all this. You don't have to get caught up in all the bullshit. Sometimes it's good to go in there and do a little bit of battle. Sometimes you gotta do a 3-hour live stream where you're talking about all this stuff and immerse yourself in the battle and go to war with this nonsense. But you still got the nexus of good and truth and reality, right? You still have God. You still have your families. You still have real communities that you can build. And if you're estranged from your family because you've been caught up in all this cultural nonsense, all this degradation of culture, you can still reconcile with your family. Like we see Kasumi Chris, who was the last person we talked to, actually reconciling with her family who she hadn't spoken with in years because she was so wrapped up in her vegan ideology, her vegan fake religious crusade, that she got lost in it and lost her family. So you still got this good stuff. So go ahead. Completely derailed that. But
that's cool. It is the crux of what I was so inspired by this woman's situation is because she had an accidental, quote unquote, pregnancy, which turns out to be a real blessing in disguise because now her son is 4 and she's just so motivated by him and inspired by him and wants to be there for him, and she wants to go hiking and she wants to be out and like active. And I think these are the best motivators that we can have in our life is like they come from such a pure, real source.
Wait, you can't say pure, real source while I have Dr. Joel Cohn.
Well, take him down. I'm going to say it.
I'm trying to pull it down there, guys. It's
all right.
gone. Sorry, guys.
All right. So the point being that our children and our families, and it's like the love that's around us, and then that's a motivator so we can feel more of that and we can expand on these moments where we feel that and we feel how good life is and what a blessing it is to be alive and to experience the things around us.
Mommy.
And then we start to see, okay, well, how are we triggered and what's blocking me from experiencing that more fully?
Who is this? Who are you talking about? You said some lady.
Yeah, she's a client in the next collective.
Yeah. Oh, you were just reading her questionnaire.
Just before this.
Right.
Yeah. And it's essentially, it's like, that's such a good motivator, it's your family. And it's not, you don't want to lose weight because you want to be skinny or you want to look a certain way. it's like it's from the inside. You know, it's because you
want to throw up a hot Instagram profile
right.
picture.
It's not for anybody else. It's like people are making these changes. They're joining this collective because they want a better experience of life, and they know it's like. And then we're here to help set a foundation and help stop it. We're here to help set the foundation, and so you can carry on with your life, you know, because you don't need to spend your whole day thinking about food or worrying about what the scale's going to say. It's like it's like you walk on the path, and then I don't have a metaphor. You walk on the path,
Look,
and then you
dance.
go, and you plant flowers along it, and then you smell the flower.
And then somebody makes you the best GIF ever. Shout out to the GIF angel who made me this GIF after I called it out. Thank you. No, but it's true. And that's what's so cool about the way that we've been doing coaching lately. I still get stoked with private coaching clients too.
There's
you know,
so
like the
many
guy
good
I met
ones.
with yesterday,
Yeah.
he was really fun.
He was a very cool guy.
You know, I mean, it's nice doing the private coaching where I get to meet people and talk to them regularly. You know, people from all different walks of life who just want to be better, who just want to live, right? And you know what's funny? One of the common threads of all the people that come to us for coaching, most of them are turning off the freaking TV already.
Yeah.
Is Dr. Greger a quack? Is that a facetious question? Dr. Greger has never even practiced medicine. Didn't he practice? He practiced for like a month. And then he went straight into shilling. You know, these guys, they're ideologues who get the two letters in front of their name, who get so emotionally, psychologically, and financially invested in this ideology that most of these people are just becoming doctors so that they can push the plant-based diet. I mean, look at Goji Man. He's like, hey, hashtag Goji Man. I'm in the process of getting my master's. And, you know, he basically tells you in the beginning of every video that he's in the middle of buying his credibility.
At least once he'll mention it.
And he's like, once I get my credibility, I'm going to become a doctor. And it's so hypocritical because then there was a comment on Goji Madam's, or what is his, Goji Mouse, whatever his name is, video. And somebody asked him the nutrition content, you're studying to become a nutritionist, which anybody can become a freaking nutritionist. Anybody who's got enough money can go to a university and buy their way into fake credibility, right? So they ask him, what is the content that they're teaching you? Is it plant-based? And he answers no. He responds no. So he basically is telling everybody in his audience in this YouTube comment thread that, yes, I'm going to use this to leverage to become credible and pretend like I'm some sort of a health guru, but
not use any of the information.
But I'm
that I
not
just
using.
learned.
Yeah, exactly.
That's good.
I'm trying to find. Let's find a picture. You know, here's Goji Madam.
Okay.
Oh, he's got me blocked here. I gotta
Dude,
sign out.
It just makes me really sad.
I can't even
for
look at
him
his Instagram because he blocked me.
as a person, because I feel like he's missing out on so much potential in his own
There's
life.
Goji Man. There we go. The beauty.
So sad.
Look at this. I mean, just sickly ideologues that
Yeah.
are pushing this, sick inside and out, right? And these people that have no, their whole belief system, their entire ideology is based around the foods they eat, as if that makes them enlightened, right? And yeah, we're talking about eat meat, make families, and I'm sure somebody will, no, that's what you're doing. No, this is about real human nutrition, right? To actually give you a solid foundation so that you can go out and live a meaningful life. You're not
That's
going
the
to
key.
change the freaking world through buying certain products. And that's the Fortune 100's fake revolution model. You get people to buy into people are buying an identity. You go to Walmart and you buy your Occupy Wall Street t-shirt from Walmart, right? You go buy your freaking whatever. You go buy your Black Lives Matter t-shirt from freaking Walmart, and then you go to your protest that's funded by billionaire philanthropists, and you parade around like you're enlightened. So it's like, I mean, these are the ideologues that are pushing this stuff. You know, you got Goji Man saying, I'm buying my credibility right now, I'm becoming a nutritionist, and then openly admitting that he doesn't even care about the curriculum that they're teaching him, that he's already, it's just total
What a
hypocrisy.
horrible situation to be in, right? If you're paying for something, knowing that you're, I mean, because he knows.
What a
He knows
horrible
you're just
situation to
using
be
it.
in, to feel like that. Like, this dude looks like you know, like when a rat's about to get, like, snatched by a cat? That's kind of what that face reminds me of. It's like
He
cosmic
looks like
terror.
he's struggling to breathe.
He's like in
and just
terror.
Relax. Yeah.
Look at Gregor. Totally not creepy right there.
Creepy. No.
Cut out the middle moo. Yeah, cut out the middle moo. Exactly. Cut out the cow and feed the cellulose directly to the serfs. And that's the Fortune 100 model now. This is the big agriculture companies that are consolidating power on behalf of these few corporations. Cargill runs 50% of the international grain market. and they're super big into spreading the soy boy stuff. But all right, let's finish talking about the Keto Collective though. So the next Keto Collective session, we call it the Keto and Carnivore Collective now, because we get a lot of people doing a carnivorous style diet. And we are talking earlier about how to do a carnivore diet right, where a lot of people are just eating meat, like 3-4 pounds of meat a day. In my opinion, not ideal.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Sorry.
Yeah.
I interrupted.
So not ideal, in my opinion. I'll interrupt whenever you want. Not ideal, in my opinion. Because, first of all, your wallet. If you're trying to buy 4 pounds of ribeye to eat every day and you live in the U.S. and you're trying to get good quality food, it's going to be freaking expensive. But also, as far as just digestion and nutrition, eating more animal fats, like including things like suet, right? I mean, well, tallow, rather. You don't want to eat straight suet.
No,
unless
you can.
You can, but
Yeah.
I like tallow. And then you can make suet. You can take suet, rather, and you can make tallow, which we actually show you how to do that in the Ketogenic Edge Cookbook. So using the odd bits, using every part of the animal, eating foods like bone marrow, right? Using marrow. Marrow is so freaking amazing. It is just an incredible. It's a superfood. It's a vegan. Is it more of a superfood than the Impossible Burger? She says stop. No more impressions.
No, stop our children.
And our children are going crazy now. They can't handle when mommy and daddy are away.
Should we show this?
So we teach you how to make tallow in the book here. And this is the way we teach a carnivorous style diet, where you're including more animal fats that are highly affordable. Sasha throwing out 10, euros? Thank you so much. It says love your streams. Appreciate it. Someone asked earlier for 2 euros. If you guys do want your comments read, you can throw the super chats out. We'll read them for the mammons. What do you make of Dr. Gundry? I don't know who Dr. Gundry is. I remember Ted Gunderson. Remember that guy?
Yeah.
I don't know who Dr. Gundry is. This thing won't focus. I'm trying to get this. I'm sorry. I haven't heard of him. Maybe I'll look into it. So, real, human nutrition comes from animal products and animal foods. And if you look at every single culture around the world, they've all used the organs. They've all used bone marrow.
Every single one.
Every one of them.
How silly is it to raise an animal, spend so much time protecting it, nourishing it, watching out for it, and then
or just hunting it.
Or hunting it, which is also extremely difficult.
Yeah.
And then preparing it, extremely difficult. I mean, these are like, think of a cow, right? It's going to be, at least 1,000 pounds? It's a lot of material. It's so silly to not use it all. It doesn't make any sense.
Absolutely. And some of the cheapest parts of the animals are the organs.
Yes.
And if you include organ meats, you're getting lots of really, really deep, good nutrition. You're getting vitamin D.
Yep.
Vitamin K2, vitamin A in liver. In the bone marrow, there are compounds that you're not going to find in anywhere else in the body. Most of our stem cells are actually stored in our bone marrow and in our fat tissues. So there is so much regenerative property associated with fat and animal fats across all cultures. So when you look at nutrition and physical degeneration, you see that the Inuit are all using the entire animal. The Plains Indians, the North American Indians, all using the entire animal, not just using certain cuts of fatty meat, which, hey, if that works for you, fantastic. But we're going for what's best for us, right? We're going for what's optimal. And what's best for us is not buying 100 pounds of ribeye a week to eat. What's best for us as a family is including, making a bunch of tallow and adding the tallow to the meat, and it decreases the amount of meat you even need to eat.
Yeah.
So you can get in, a decent amount of protein to maintain that ketotic state. Maybe I just got to rub this thing clean. To maintain that ketotic state and get the fats to burn for fuel, right? Because if you're getting grass-fed meat, a lot of the times that grass-fed beef is more lean. So we like adding the fats, adding the organs. And that's how we teach a carnivorous style diet. And it was really cool. There were quite a few people doing more carnivore-style diet in our last Keto and Carnivore Collective that we had to add carnivore to the collective name. So essentially, it's our group community coaching setup where we get a lot of private coaching clients that come to us for formulating a ketogenic diet, for troubleshooting. There's so much misinformation out there. A lot of people just don't know how to do keto. A lot of people are doing it, just fast food keto, and that's not optimal, and they often end up hitting a wall with that. So we get tons of clients that are coming to us, more than we can even handle, and that's why we did the Keto Collective, where we can actually take on more clients and give you more interactive time and do live interactive voice chats several times per week. And you guys get a community-based setting where you can talk to and support each other. Go ahead, baby.
Well, the community setting is great for accountability. People really thrived in it. What I wanted to mention this last session, it was different than the other ones we've run in that most of the people had already been doing keto or carnivore for some months. and they got kind of that first level of benefits, but they were all really gung-ho about finding out how to further optimize their situation. Okay. You have to take it to the bedroom. They wanted to further optimize their situation. They knew that there was more potential, and they just needed to fine-tune a few things. And then there was so much celebration going on. You know, everybody was making such good progress and really just having a great time. It was so much more than just weight loss or fat loss. There was a lot of that going on. But people, they really took to heart certain lifestyle changes, and it made a big difference for them and their whole families.
Right, and that's the thing. It's just like a lot of people are, oh, well, I'm just going to change my diet. Well, I mean, it's got to be a whole lifestyle approach, and it's got to be something that's sustainable. It's not like you just change your diet for 3 weeks, you're going to lose all the weight and feel better. I mean, you've got to do long-term lifestyle change, getting out in the sun, right? Building real communities, you know, focusing on becoming a truly better person, you know, having a solid worldview and reason for what you're doing. That's huge. Why you want to lose the weight? You want to just lose the weight because you have some illusion of posting a Facebook pic and Johnny from high school is going to click like on it, and then you're going to go skipping off into the sunset together and, you know, change your relationship status on Facebook in this fake projected alternate reality that's, you know, that's being constantly ingrained in us through social media? No, that's not what we want. We want to really live life. You want to be able to pick up your big fat son, your big chubby son, and tickle him. You want to be able to handle your crazy daughter and battle with her when she wants to fight you.
Every
Vicious,
day.
crazy daughter when she wants to fight you every day. You want to be able to pick up your 45-pound daughter and throw her over your head high enough to scare the shit out of her. You want to be able to engage in meaningful activity, right? You want to have the energy to, like, you know, lift up objects, right? You want to have the energy to, you know, or you want to have arms that are bigger than the 9-year-old girl next to you, which unfortunately Dr. Greger here doesn't have.
Doesn't have those.
How pathetic is this? Like,
Yes,
these are the
doesn't
people
have
telling
healthcare.
you what to do. I mean, yeah, oh, people say, oh, that's really low. Like, you're attacking how they look. That's so shallow. But it's like, no, this whole plant-based movement thing is so big, is so well-funded, is so well-coordinated, and has gone so far that you do need to battle with these people head-on and point out the inanity, the sickliness of the heads of this movement, and the internal and mental sickness that is propelling this stuff. So, speaking of which, well, anyways, yeah, well, that maybe that's the end of the Keto Collective talk.
Maybe. It's been really fun hanging out with you. I appreciate the audience being so chill with their children on top of me.
They're all saying, eat meat, get abortions, is what they're all saying.
Oh no.
No, they're saying eat soy, get abortions.
Oh, thanks. That's funny.
No, I'm kidding.
All right.
That's what we're all at. We're all about eat meat, make families. We're not about, you know, eat meat, population control. There's too many people in the world. We're going to pretend to be enlightened. We're about real. No, Helen, we don't count plant proteins in the recipe book at all, actually.
No.
All the recipes have macros, and protein has eyes, and protein comes from an egg. Either eyes or from an egg.
Or shell. Oysters.
Leave enraged Gohan. Don't delete everything that these. Let some of the vegan trolls go on for a little bit. Dr. Greger could take this guy with one hand and throw him across the farm, no doubt, says enraged Gohan. He's trolling. He's joking, guys. Don't ban all vegans. Stop deleting him. Who's deleting him? Don't delete all these people. Carnival, be nice. Let them talk some shit. It's all good.
Ow, you keep rolling over my.
Except cool name bro he doesn't like my. He's gone. Cool name bro doesn't like my English accent. So he's gone. You're banned. You don't like my plant-based news accent? But Klaus from Plant-Based News. All right, so here we go, guys. Let's talk. We'll finish up talking about the Keto Collective. What else about the Keto Collective this last month? It was really fun. We had a good group of people this one. There was a lot of really supportive people talking about kind of like how there were some moms who were really into kind of family life and you know, providing good nutrient-dense foods for their family. Some homesteaders. We had some. We've got some like practitioners coming up in the next group.
Yeah, we do. We had some doctors in the last one.
Yeah, I mean it's always a really fun group, and it's okay. Carnival, if you want to ban them, I won't. You ban whoever you want. It's okay. Helen Fritz, if says your English accent is spot on, I'm sensing sarcasm in that comment, and you might get banned if you keep that up, Helen.
She also says that we're awesome.
But she might be.
Hey,
I think she's being sarcastic. She's gonna get banned if she keeps. No,
I think
Carnival.
she can stay.
Everyone, check out Carnival's channel. He's got some really good content too. Underrated channel. That's my buddy. He lives in Ecuador too. Hey. Southern Fairy accent says raw liver and chips. All right. You guys, come on. Klaus is a hero in the bi community. All right, so let's look at... What's all right?
You tell me when we should
Joel
go.
Cohn. Yeah, just do whatever you guys want. We got Dr. Joel Cohn. Dr. Joel Cohn is going to be debating Chris Kresser on Joe Rogan, right? So Joe Rogan is, basically the king of the normies on the internet, right? If you want to know, like, what average America normie who thinks they're kind of edgy, but also really wants to be totally accepted in mainstream society thinks like, you watch the Joe Rogan podcast. I used to really like some of Joe Rogan's stuff. It's hard for me to listen to it now, but, he's done a lot for keto. So I will say that. The guy has put out quite a bit of content promoting keto, and I do appreciate that. We get lots of people who even come to our channel and say they heard about keto from Joe Rogan, and so you got to give him credit there. Although I disagree with a lot of the nonsense he's been spouting lately, it is what it is. So Joe Rogan's going to have Joel Cohn debating Chris Kresser. Chris Kresser is a former vegan. Joel Cohn responding. So Shaun Baker posted this tweet on the bathroom wall of the internet, Twitter. And 2018 study, 220,000 people, 50 countries, and the results indicate meat, dairy, good for the heart. Guess you don't need to be a brain-shrinking vegan munching on tofu to avoid heart disease. And then Dr. Joel Cohn jumps in, getting highly aggressive, right? After he, you're so kind. This is passive-aggressive here. When he responds to me, I'd said 2 heroes of online vegan hacktivism, Cargill and Tyson Foods, thank you for your service. All right, Cargill and Tyson Foods, who love all this vegan activism. They're heavily invested in plant-based foods. They're all about plant-based nutrition now. These big international grain conglomerates that already consolidated the food supply and have already taken away the small family farm and replaced it with the factory farm in the name of efficiency. All right, so the book Seeds of Destruction, that's a really good resource on the so-called Green Revolution. There's actually quite a few references to Cargill here, the revolving door of government, corporate interests running international food policy. So then Gregor responds, "You're so kind. What did you do today to help a human?" And he puts a thing with a V for vegan, Michael Corleone. So he's Michael Corleone. Keep your friends close, but your enemies closer. Ooh, damn, Dr. Joel Cohn. So then he... if we ever needed a role model of animals experiencing terror, pain, and distress, and that legacy being transferred to the human soul by ingesting that pain, you are the alpha asshole. I actually think your work is interesting. Pre-diabetic, but interesting. Try science method, says Joel Cohn to Dr. Shaun Baker. So just full on attack mode, calls him an asshole. And of course, they always have to resort to the ingesting pain and suffering. Even though this dude's he's like a New York Jew atheist, right? Like this guy, like Joel Cohn, that's a Jew last name. That's a Jewish last name, right? My uncle's last name is Cohn, or my grandfather's last name is Cohn, adopted grandfather. Last name is Cohn. So Joel Cohn. So New York Jew atheist, but talking about the legacy of pain ingested into your soul. It's just really funny philosophy that some of these guys had. Don't really understand what's going on here. So I responded. I said he's one of the most intellectually dishonest vegan ideologues out there. Literally writes books about how vegans have better boners. Joke of a career, shadow of a man. Which this is what he does. All right, so then we've got, let's find, he had another, here we go. So just lowest common denominator plant-based propaganda that this guy puts out. Check it out. A doctor explains how to eat your way to better orgasms. This is the type of content that he puts out, right? Just lowest common denominator, clickbait crap. Eat vegan and you're going to get better orgasms. You're going to get superior orgasms with your vegan diet. I mean, just the dumbest, unscientific pseudoscience nonsense. So then I call him out for it. Let's see. Call him out for it on Twitter. More lowest common denominator vegan propaganda. Does anyone actually take this stuff seriously? Plant-based news did it better. The entire video is a punchline. So then, you got plant-based news who put out this video.
Strength comes from eating protein.
Which is
many people.
All right, so they've got a clip from some mainstream news. As you see, like billions of dollars getting put into pushing the plant-based agenda in mainstream news, while at the same time you see all these mainstream news outlets bashing eating meat, and even now starting to strawman Dr. Shaun Baker or people like Michaela Peterson, who get a big following online, promoting a straight carnivore diet. Which, hey, I might not promote a diet that's exactly like they do, but I'm glad they're out there doing what they do. Big respect to Dr. Shaun Baker, who's an actual man, who actually fought in a war, who actually put dudes' freaking blown up legs together in war zones, who knows how to handle himself under pressure and under stress, right? And these freaking vegan ideologue activists, shoot, who would you rather have as your neighbor? Whose kids would you rather have your kids hang out with? Dr. Shaun Baker, who's a veteran, who knows how to handle himself in combat and stitch your leg together if it blows off, or Goji Man, right? Or Dr. Greger sitting here. I mean, granted, that 9-year-old girl next to Dr. Greger right there, she's got quite a pump. Like, she was doing some biceps curls before that. She did get a pre-pump, and she probably takes creatine, and she's probably not vegan, so that's why her arms are so much bigger. And Dr. Greger's like an endurance athlete, so, but yeah, I mean, look at that girl dwarfing him. It's fucking hilarious. All right, where'd he go? Where'd that tab go? So yeah, let's check out this propaganda, which I thought was much better than Joel Cohn's books on vegans do it better. How vegans get better sex. Right? Here you go, Game Changers. Which is James Cameron produced this film. Billions of dollars being pumped into this type of nonsense through these huge NGOs, through Cargill, through Saudi royalty, through the Saudi princes. The Saudi prince, Prince Khalid, funds plant-based news. Plant-based news. He funds it.
People still think brute strength comes from eating protein, specifically meat protein. But a new documentary is turning the spotlight on the benefits of an all-plant diet and how adopting it can push you past previous limits. That doc is called The Game Changers.
There's one great scene in there with a urologist named Aaron Spitz, and they have these
So this is Dr. Dean Ornish. Dean Ornish, MD. Obviously, like, it's kind of an unfair advantage for them to be able to put Dean Ornish. He's obviously just the pinnacle of health and vitality. I mean, just look at this beautiful man. Like, I'm pretty straight. I've got, heterosexual marriage and stuff like that. But I really question my sexuality when I see men like this. I got a semi right now looking at Mr. Ornish.
Young athletes, and they feed them a plant-based meal, and then they measure at night how frequently and how hard their erections are, and then they do a meat-based meal and do the same thing, and they found they had 300 to 500% more frequent erections and 10 to 15% harder after just one meal. Now, we've reported.
Okay, let me rewind this, and this is the science that Joel Cohn and these dudes are talking about.
A meat-based meal and do the same thing, and they found they had
They had
to 500% more frequent erections and 10 to 15% harder after just one meal. Now, we've reported about this. Your brain gets less blood flow, your heart gets less blood flow if you eat.
After one meal, vegans had 300% more boners. And how many percent harder were their boners? Dude, this is the science that these people are pushing. This is how dumb they think you are. This is how little respect these people have for the audience. And this is the shit that mainstream media picks up and pushes. Who even watches this stuff anymore? Let me rewind that. Let's reiterate the science behind vegan boners that Joel Cohn is all about.
So they feed them a plant-based meal, and then they measure at night how frequently and how hard their erections are, and then they do a meat-based meal and do the same thing, and they found they had 300 to 500% more frequent erections and 10 to 15% harder after just one meal.
Now I want to, this is hardcore science, right? This is like hardcore science, not softcore science. So they're measuring the hardness of the hard-on, in the name of science, of course. But, I don't know. This could be a little bit skewed. Because if Dr. Dean Ornish was possibly in the room, or if, Dr. Greger was in the same room as the guys that ate the plant-based meal, that would probably, change the results. Like the erections are going to get far more frequent when Joel Cohn and you know, Dr. Ornish and Dr. Greger are in the room. So that's not even fair.
You know, we've reported about this. You know, your brain gets less blood flow, your heart gets less blood flow if you eat a single high-fat, high-animal protein meal. And that, you know, didn't really impress people so much. But when you show that your sexual organs, you know, apparently the film crew became vegan after shooting this scene. I think that's going to change a lot of minds.
I think.
All right. So, I mean, you openly admitting there that, yeah, it's just about propaganda. Opening minds. So just really, really like. So then he's like, okay, maybe not. Wait for the new documentary. At Game Changers movie, coming out soon, says Dr. Joel Cohn. World-class powerlifters, cage fighters on only plans repairing their physical and sexual bodies. On the right, blood after a fatty meat meal. Your arteries hate that crap. It's like, this dude he's got a picture of so-called blood, and he's like, yeah, look at that. This looks like some freaking blood with some like butter in a vial. Look, this is what it does. I mean, just such dumbed down, lowest common denominator was my response. Propaganda. Are you being facetious, or do people actually buy into this absurdity? Monsanto, Cargill, and Tyson Foods, thank you for your service. Right? And then I linked to Tyson Foods injects more money into plant-based meats. Forbes article. Because as you know, the Fortune 100 companies are who are behind this stuff. Like, what is this crap? Insane. Oh, we got the puppies down here underneath the desk. Can you see him? I can't reach the camera far enough. He's yapping in his sleep. Okay. Carnival, you could show the puppy from the beginning of the video. Show it to Adrian. I don't like going on Facebook. I told her I'd get her pictures. But yeah, I mean, this is the lowest common denominator of vegan propaganda, guys.
Sort of embarrassing to talk about, but the test that we did. So first we did 3 live experiments in the film. One was on the 3 members of the Miami Dolphins to look at blood flow, and you saw that, the difference that a single meal can make. And we thought to ourselves, I wonder if a single meal can affect sexual performance, in particular for men, erectile function. Sort of strange to talk about. So we found 3 willing college athletes from Orange County, near where James lives, who were willing to do this test, and the film, you know, gets into a little more, but
You're trying to prove to men that, you know, an all-plant diet gives you sustenance and power and vitality, I guess.
Yeah, and it only made sense, like, if we saw increased blood flow.
Gives you power, vitality. So it's like, this is what people want, right? They want this fake sense of power nowadays. That's what people want on social media. They want power. They want to look hot. This is what sells. Pretty funny shit. So yeah, just very, very low IQ content there from Plant Vaishnis. And of course, you know, Dr. Joel Cohn, he's going to be debating on Joe Rogan. I can't, like, why? I mean, I don't care. Do what you want with your podcast, but it was funny seeing the thread that led up to, like, you know, some of these debates. It's just a bunch of vegans troll Joe Rogan, and he's so obsessed with being accepted by everybody and appearing like he doesn't have real opinions that he bows to this nonsense, and he has these fake hack ideologues like Joel Cohn on. But I appreciate it. I'm glad. Maybe Rogan is intentionally having this hack on to just expose what doofuses some of these people are and just the crap that they push. You know, I mean, let's see what else he's pushing. Eating this much chocolate could cut heart disease risk by 13%. Dude, chocolate is like pure saturated fat, right? When you're just saying that saturated fats make your dick not work, and this is your blood after a high-fat meal, and then in your same page, eating chocolate can cut heart disease. Watermelons have a cooling effect on the body and are great for those who are dehydrated and suffering from edema. Artichokes show remarkable cholesterol-reducing properties. I mean, I don't know, man. It's really funny. It's really funny to me that just like these are the top voices. Vegan hacktivism. Really crazy. But that's the world we live in, guys. Get beaner, go vegan, get hard boners. I almost combined vegan and boners into veners. All right. Let's see here. So let's move on. There was an article that I wanted to discuss about. There it is. This is an article in The Atlantic. So The Atlantic is this, dying old mainstream propaganda rag that, it's constantly putting out clickbait crap like this. I mean, if you go to their main page, let's see, The Atlantic, let's refresh it. Top article: Russia is co-opting angry young men. So more of the Russian bots, the Russians, red baiting, military-industrial complex propaganda. Those evil Russians. No matter who wins the Syrian civil war, poor Israel loses. So just like military propaganda. What else? Patients who don't want to be cured. Oh, this is like a pro-CRISPR, pro-GMO human article. So this is genetic disorder prevents blood from properly clotting, which if untreated can cause uncontrollable bleeding. Yet Johnson says he does not want a cure. He grew up with hemophilia, went to summer camp with kids with hemophilia. Wait, where's the CRISPR part? So I guess this had something to do with promoting CRISPR. Therapies like CRISPR threaten to erase it. So, letting these massive corporations modify your genes now. If you don't want your genes modified, you're a Luddite. Just mainstream propaganda. A global rightward shift on climate change, right? So, of course, left or right. Ooh, if you don't believe that we need to pay international carbon taxes, you must be right-wing. But if you do, you must be left-wing. And Rage Gohan's super funny. He says, when he talks shit about Dr. Greger, you could see the fear in his eyes. Dr. Greger can destroy this guy in one swing for sure. He's still going. And Rage Gohan, you gotta think of something else. You gotta think of something else, dude. If you come with something else, then we're just gonna ban you if you keep saying the same shit. All right. So, same old propaganda from The Atlantic. So let's see what they have to say about the all-meat diet. So this guy made this hit piece. The famous psychologist and his daughter swear by a regimen of eating only beef. Restriction can provide a sense of order in a world of chaos. But at what point does restriction become a disorder? Ooh, what point does restriction? I wonder if The Atlantic has any articles on vegan diet, right? So not eating a vegan diet, not eating meat is restrictive. It could be an eating disorder. But the evidence for a vegan diet. Wild Earth and the origins of vegan pet food. Israel's vegan soldiers push for changes in Israel defense. So all this pro-vegan stuff, eating a vegan diet, cutting out all animal foods like no population has ever done in the history of the world, that's not restrictive. But not eating plants, there have been several cultures that have eaten almost only animal foods. Not eating plants, that's total restriction. That's an eating disorder, guys. But, being Dr. Greger and promoting a vegan diet, being smaller than the 9-year-old girl next to you, that's totally cool and healthy. Just complete and utter nonsense. I know how ridiculous it sounds, Michaela Peterson told me recently by phone. So there's the first line of the article. I know how ridiculous it sounds. So, anybody who's ever studied propaganda, anybody who's ever written, understands that the opening line in a news article is what most people will read. They'll read the first paragraph and perhaps the last paragraph. So, opening line, I know how ridiculous it sounds. So, just right there, it's ridiculous. Already discrediting it. There are a whirlwind of attention gathered around the 26-year-old who is now offering dietary advice to people suffering with conditions like hers, or not so much dietary advice as guiding people in eating only beef. At first glance, Peterson, based in Toronto, could seem to be one of the many emerging semi-celebrities with a miraculous story of self-healing, who showed off postpartum weight loss and bikini Instagrams to sell one thing or another, a supplement or tonic or book or compression garment. Not incidentally, she is the daughter of famous and controversial pop psychologist Jordan Peterson. More on that later, but Peterson is taking the trend in extra professional health advice to extreme conclusion. She's not doing sponsored posts for health products, but actively selling one-on-one counts. So just attacking her. Oh, how horrible. She's selling one-on-one counts. Oh, how horrible. People pay her for her time to actually speak to people. How terrible of Michaela. So he goes on. Peterson seems to be reaching suffering people despite the lack of training. So just continuous reiteration of discredit her, discredit. So she, he talks about all the things that she heals from. Remember, we talked to Michaela Peterson a couple weeks ago. She's awesome. She was really fun. Really sweet person, doing what works for her. She does some consultations. She wants to help people. She's a hardworking woman. She actually she works for her father and helps to schedule all his meetings and do a lot of media correspondence on his behalf. Working her butt off out there, trying to help people out. And just constantly being attacked by mainstream media now, too. So she started cutting out foods from her diet, feeling better. Now she eats beef, salt, and water. All my symptoms went into remission. Did you quit taking medications? Everything, she said. So great. She's off all medications, but it's too restrictive. It's too restrictive. But taking antidepressants, having to be on, she had to be on, what's it called? Oxycontin. From the time she was a young girl. When her teenage years were spent on Oxycontin because she was in so much freaking pain. All right. And then he goes on. So then the next part with the big bold letter there, most people will skip down to this part. There are people who just skim articles. There is so much evidence, abundance, copious evidence. So much abundant, copious evidence acquired over decades of work from scientists around the world, scientists, that most people benefit from eating fruits, vegetables, nuts, beans, and seeds. This appears to be largely because fiber in plants is important for the flourishing of the gut microbiome. So more pseudoscience. So fiber is needed for a gut microbiome. And how do we know that? Well, because some people have certain bacteria in their gut to digest the fiber that they're feeding them. But if you don't feed them the fiber, why do you need these gut flora? These are all assumptions that are being made. Why are these assumptions being made? I ran this by some experts just to make sure it wasn't missing anything and might expect the beef salt diet is potentially something other than a bad idea. I learned that it was worse than I thought. So then Jack Gilbert, faculty director, the University of Chicago's Microbiome Center, says it's bad. It'd have severe dysregulation within 6 months. With the majority of the processes that you deal with metabolism, you would have no short-chain fatty acids in your cells. Most of the byproduct of gastrointestinal polysaccharide fermentation would shut down. So you wouldn't be able to regulate your hormone levels. You'd enter cardiac issues due to alterations in cell receptors. Your microbiota would be devastated. But there have been people who have been eating a zero-fiber diet for like 20 years. So let's see the evidence of fiber. Let's see. Okay, stopping or reducing dietary fiber intake reduces constipation and its associated symptoms. There's a study right there. I guess that's fake science, right? That must be the Russian bot science, right? Those Russian bots. And you've got lack of effect of a low-fat, high-fiber diet on the recurrence of colorectal edemas. So no fiber diets, low-fiber diets doesn't negatively affect the development of colorectal adenomas. Sorry, I said edemas. Adenomas. Oh no, we're at Harvard. Harvard took away this story. Too bad. So then I had a couple other scientific studies pulled up here, but I'll spare you. Because it's really fascinating when you actually look at the research. Fiber intake is not associated with any real health outcomes if you actually take into account all the other factors, including when you look at colorectal cancer, high fiber, high carbohydrate-based diets increase colon cancer rates. Right? High fiber diets do not increase gut motility. In fact, you know what increases gut motility? The presence of fat. High fat meals will increase gut motility. 1 week into keto, Lum, thanks for the super chat, bud. Throwing $4.99 out. 1 week into keto, so confused on who to trust. Can't figure out meal prep. Forget to eat. Can't sleep. Weight drop. Body slimming. Feel sick. Damn, that freaking sucks, man. We do our keto collective every month, man. If you look at the beginning of the video, we talk about our Keto and Carnivore Collective. We're starting the next one really soon. We've actually got about a week and a half before our next session, which is starting on the 9th of September. But I've got loads of videos, man, how to formulate your macros. We do a whole meal prep guide. We've got like 4 meal prep lessons that we drip throughout the Keto Collective. And we do live interactive voice chats. And if you just want me to make your macros and tell you what to do, some people like that, then I do that too. So yeah, if you want to get down on the Keto Collective, there's a link in the description down below. Sorry to hear that, man. It's really confusing with all the shit advice people give out there. But yeah, if you do want help with that stuff and you don't want to go digging around on the internets, hit us up for the Keto Collective. We're starting in a week. You'd be surprised how many people get just as confused. There's so much bad information out there, and I'm sorry that happens. But watch some of our videos. We put out a lot of stuff for free that's just tells you all how to do it. But yeah. So anyways, this hit piece, I mean, it's pretty lowbrow hit piece, right? There's so much evidence that you need fiber from vegetables, nuts, beans, seeds, and fruits. But in fact, there's so many cultures that have not included these foods at all in their diets. The Inuit, the Plains Indians, the Scottish Highlanders, eating very few plant foods, very little fiber, eating mostly fat and meat, fish, seafood, animal blubber, animal fat, the organs of animals. So then he ties it in. He talked to this guy Levinovitz, who's this professor that wrote this other hit piece on not Jordan Peterson, but Michaela Peterson. So they keep going, talking about these archetypes and this and that, all this psychobabble gobbledygook. They say it's an eating disorder. I don't know, man. I mean, it's pretty funny. So you have an eating disorder if you don't want to eat a bunch of plants, and nothing counts. You're just a part of the patriarchy. I don't know. Well, there's debate in the scientific community on just how much meat belongs in the diet. It's impossible for all or even most humans to eat primarily meat. It's impossible. It's impossible. But then they're talking about the vegan diet. It's literally impossible for humans to be healthy, happy, and fertile and have vegan offspring for more generations than a few, right? You're going to eat the soy-based Impossible Burgers, and you think you're going to maintain your fertility with no animal fats? Good luck. So, yeah, that was the Atlantic. So, who owns the Atlantic? Well, the owner of the Atlantic now, the Atlantic's been around for a long time. Always super pro-war, right? The Atlantic is now owned by Laurene Powell Jobs. So, the Jobs Trust. Steve Jobs, famous vegetarian, vegan guy, died of cancer. His wife, Laurene Powell Jobs, who calls herself a philanthropist, right? Silicon Valley elite, Goldman Sachs. Worked for Merrill Lynch, 3 years at Goldman Sachs. She owns the Atlantic now through her investment company. So that's who owns the Atlantic. So there you go. So the Impossible Burger, $387.5 million getting put into the funding of the Impossible Burger. Headquartered, of course, out of Silicon Valley. This processed meat burger. And you look at who actually invests in it. Who invests in these plant-based foods? Well, you always see the same characters. Of course, Bill Gates. You've got Temasek Holding. Saline Capital. I mean, these are like, what are these? These look like Chinese investment firms. Temasek Holdings. Southeast Asian and Nations Investing. So international global investment firms, $242 billion in their portfolio. This is who's funding this stuff. It's a shell game, guys, being played by these huge corporations. So they're also involved in like Alibaba, Bayer, all these other, this is, big pharma. I mean, these are all great corporations, all right? Bayer Pharmaceutical, formerly IG Farben. Saline Capital, first major private equity fund on the global stage with its initial capital raised domestically in the Chinese yuan. So it's a Chinese investment company, billionaire Chinese investment company, and going down on the Impossible Burger. Why? Do people believe that this is a grassroots revolution? That this is somehow enlightening? Major beef supplier Cargill, we talked about earlier. Cargill, heavily involved in the game of nations. Major meat supplier Cargill sold off their last U.S. feedlots to invest in plant-based proteins. Cargill. Major beef supplier Cargill to exit U.S. cattle feeding business. It's from Reuters. Yes. Is it cold? Can you pour it? Yeah. Is it cold enough?
The other one was frozen, so this is what's available.
Oh, put the other one outside. All right. Tyson Foods, Tyson Cargill, and other meat incumbents invest in a meatless future. Memphis Meats, Cargill, who's invested in all this? Fortune 100 companies, big billionaire investors. Fake grassroots revolution. While at the same time, these people's, the same publications that are pushing all this stuff, and of course always pushing for more wars. More wars, more wars, more wars. Inside the dispute, derailing nuclear talks with North Korea. Ooh, nuclear. Yeah, I mean, civil war, Syrian civil war. Poor Israel loses from the Syrian civil war. The Atlantic, big hit piece on Michaela Peterson. I mean, this is just low level stuff, guys. I mean, these people should be ashamed. These people should be freaking ashamed of themselves. They call this journalism now. They call this journalism. I used to want to be a journalist when I was in high school. I used to read like Hunter Thompson and stuff. I think it'd be so cool to be a journalist. And then you grow up. You realize there is no journalism anymore. Right? And that was even before the internet became the hub of so-called journalism. All right, now. Let's see, what else do we have here, guys? We talked a little bit about Cargill. We talked about the intellectual dishonesty in a lot of these anti-meat agenda folks. You know, Dr. Joel Cohn, the con artist. They always have to go back to their ethical arguments, the ethical veganism arguments. Yet most of these people claim they're atheists, right? But then whenever it suits their goals, whenever it suits their agenda, their preconceived notion on what they want to be real, they'll support it. So these people say they believe that there is no objective morality, there is no objective truth. Yet, you know, this guy who's, you know, an atheist Jew will push, say, the Jewish community in general needs animal liberation. Well, here's why animal liberation has ballooned in Jewish culture from PETA. Post this article. I mean, just whenever it suits your agenda, it's cool, right? Oh, and then he says, who the fuck cares? Is it related to compassion, service to others, 10 commandments? I did not judge my worth on the bench, but if I are steroid-laced meats, maybe I would. Him responding, I guess he had a big battle with Shaun Baker. Yeah. He's a vegan. He's 41. Joel Cohn is 41 years old. Are you kidding me? This dude's 41. Dude, if I'm 31 right now, if I look like that when I'm 41, then I'll eat that freaking lectin soup in his hand right there. Look at that. What is that? Is that like raisins on a freaking... It's a nightshade with raisins in a toxic nightshade that's not good for any human being. Bell peppers with a bunch of tomatoes and raisins and stuff. Damn. Joel Cohn. Super aggressive towards the longevity diet. The 5 pillars of longevity. Talking about the 10 commandments, but he's an atheist. Om Namah Shivaya and some other freaking post. I mean, just whenever it suits your agenda. Here's Joel Cohn intimidating Dr. Shaun Baker. Look at that punch. Ooh, look at that jab. Knocks him out. Ooh, finished him with the jab. Captain Morgan going down. That's vegan activism right there, guys. All I know is I'm intimidated. I'm sorry. Dr. Greger and Joel Cohn. So, I mean, I don't know, guys. What do you think? You think this is a grassroots movement? I think we've pretty much shown conclusively here. I don't know how many more times I can reiterate that this fake vegan activism is funded by Fortune 100 companies, is not about sustainability. And when you actually hear people bringing up terms like sustainable development and stuff like that, it's always about resource consolidation. All right? It's about brainwashing us into giving up our rights as human beings to choose what we put in our bodies, to choose what we don't put in our bodies, to choose what we feed our children. And you've got the truth brigades now. You know, you've got Facebook rating users' trustworthiness. Facebook openly colluding with the North Atlantic Council. Facebook openly working with NATO to censor the internet. Right? I had Jay Dyer on here last week or 2 weeks ago, and his site was shut down by WordPress like 2 days after I had him on. His site totally deplatformed by WordPress because I think likely because of the articles he had exposing kind of what was going on in Syria. He had a lot of stuff about deep geopolitics. Nothing inflammatory, no hate speech on his website, nothing. No like racism or whatever, you know, like, just solid information. Good guy. He's like a Christian guy. He's an Orthodox Christian. And his site was removed by WordPress. Let's see if I can find. You know, you've got Richard Branson. I believe in 30 years or so, we will no longer need to kill any animals. That all meat will be either clean or plant-based, taste the same, also be much healthier for everyone. And why does he believe this? And why is Plant-Based News sharing this? Well, because Sir Richard Branson, knighted by the Queen, who also knighted Jimmy Savile, or Savile, Jimmy Savile, everybody's favorite BBC personality, knighted by the Queen, just like Jimmy Savile. This guy is invested in Memphis Meats heavily. So his fund is heavily invested in the plant-based foods. Starting to see a pattern here, guys. This is not grassroots activism. This is Fortune 100 activism. I'm trying to find. All right, there we go. We need some laughs, though.
See a dog, when we see a pig, when we see a chicken, when we see a cow, we see the same thing, which is a beautiful earthling, a fellow earthling, another animal that's living on this planet with us. And so we don't see...
No. When I see a cow, when I see a pig, when I see a chicken, I don't see the same thing. When I see a dog, like back there, see that lazy-ass pit bull right there? That dog is a guard dog. That dog's also a friend of my kids, watches over my kids, so we keep that dog alive. We feed that dog the meat from a cow, which I see as a food source, which is a big, dumb animal that walks around and eats grass all day and chews it up, and is not a friend that you want to cuddle with. It's a big, dumb animal. We've got 10 of them on our land. They drink spring water. They drink natural spring water. And they roam around. They eat nothing but grass. And when we're ready, we'll kill them and we'll eat them. And we'll feed them to our dogs, so that our dogs can be here to protect our home from possible invaders, like degenerate, vegan activists, murderers, like this chick. Check this out. Here's an article I found. It just goes on and on. Where'd it go? Where's this one? I'm having trouble finding my... Here, I'll just drag the tab over here. There we go. Sydney vegan feminist charged over samurai sword stabbing. A vegan feminist charged over the samurai sword killing of an aspiring rapper once branded herself a murderer for picking a flower. Hannah Quinn, 23, and her actor boyfriend Blake Davis, 28, were charged over the murder of Jet McKee, 30, in the inner city suburb of Forest Lodge. This sounds like some meth head shit. I don't know. A vegan activist killed this guy with a samurai sword. They spent 3 days on the run before handing themselves over to police on Monday after allegedly killing Mr. McKee when he tried to rob their granny flat. crazy. The keen advocate of veganism on Facebook is photographed wearing a meat is murder t-shirt. Wrote about eating, getting upset about picking flowers. Okay, so she didn't break into this guy's house and murder that guy. That's a boyfriend. Why is Osho showing up? That's so funny. She posted an Osho picture, of course. Murdering people with samurai swords. You know, so I mean, the big money veganism is not a grassroots movement. That's why you're seeing them trying to co-opt all these other movements, right? You see, like, trying to link veganism in with feminism. This one, vegan, feminist, atheist, minimalist, activist. Right here. You see all these kind of social justice movements going, a call to feminists. After repeated cycles of forced impregnation, painful births, poor animals have to give birth. Poor nature. Nature is such an oppressive man. Nature is so oppressive. Making you give birth. Nature is so oppressive, it gave me a penis. Fucking hate nature. I hate you, Dad. After repeated cycles of forced impregnations, painful births, relentless milkings, and crushing bereavements, their spirit gives. Their spirit gives, their bodies wither, their milk dries up. Their milk dries up. At the age when in nature a female cow would barely enter adulthood, the life of a dairy cow is over. When her milk production declines, she and her other spent herd mates are trucked off to slaughter. Some are pregnant. All are still lactating. As they are shoved towards death, they drip milk onto the killing floor. All dairy operations, including organic, exist solely by doing millions of defenseless females the worst thing anyone can do a mother. Dairy consumers support this practice with their purchases. Milk comes from a grieving mother, leaflet by peaceful prairie sanctuary. Vegan feminist movement. I mean, it's just, it gets so ridiculous once you start really diving into how all these little grassroots cults are congealing in, you know, the postmodernist, post-truth world. Where people are given all these little cults instead of real connection to life, instead of real belief, real communities, right? They get online fake hacktivist communities. Online fake activist communities instead of real, true, real, true practices of communal engagement, real families, right? That's what we're all about. Eat meat, make families, guys. I'm about to talk to my buddy, though. We got the Eat Meat, Make Families shirt. I couldn't wear it today. I was looking at all this stuff. I was reading this article, and I was just in a mood for grr. I had to wear my grr shirt. Daphne Reloaded, what's up? Nice to have you here, Daphne. Mahakalpas. They killed a robber, therefore clearly human garbage because they also happen to be vegan. No, I never said that. I thought it was a great name of an article, right? Sydney vegan feminist charged over samurai sword stabbing. That's awesome. She's super down for Osho. All right, guys. So I'm going to talk to my buddy. Let me pull down all these excess tabs I've got pulled up. I'm going to talk to Derek. Derek's been eating a raw paleo diet. Kasumi Chris. What's up, Kasumi Chris? Kasumi Chris, I sent you another email just thanking you. She bought a hoodie. She's going to be repping the Eat Me, Make Families hoodie. And she's been reconciling with her family over there, which is so cool. I don't know who Carburetor is, so it's not worth my time for an impression. But let's see. Kasumi Chris, thank you so much for getting a hoodie. We got shirts, we got tanks, and we got hoodies on the website. You click on the link in the description will go to our website. I don't know if we have a link directly to the shirts, but if you just go to the shop, you'll see the Primal Edge Health, Eat Me, Make Families merch. Support it, guys. It's really actually funny, the conversations that have happened. I wore my Eat Meat Make Family shirt had it at our little local farmers market the other day. We live in Ecuador, but there are a few expats around. There's quite a few like retired single never had kids before, but treat their dogs like children, like boomers around. And they are always really funny because they're always, a lot of them are former Oshoites and stuff, like Rajneeshis and shit, and really into really into antinatalism and stuff. And Kasumi Chris is going to be a mod. You get mod status. Kasumi Chris, you have a hammer. Ban the trolls. Or anybody who makes fun of my terrible British accent. Or says, nice shirt. Unless it's Sfarage. Don't ban Sfarage. He can make fun of me for wearing a shirt. No, don't ban everybody. Use it with care. Wield your hammer with care. All right, so let's talk to Derek, guys. Derek's been on a raw paleo style diet for a while now, and he sent me an email, real sweet, heartfelt email. Let me make sure. Let's see. Skype. Derek Nance. What's up, my man? You got video capability?
I think so. Is it linked up now? Can you see me?
I can't see you yet.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, I haven't really did a test run on the Skype yet.
Oh, that's all right. You got a phone? That's all right. Oh, echo. You got a phone? Sometimes you do it in Skype from your phone.
Video on.
Here you go.
Yeah. Hey.
What's up, buddy? Now the audio quality is kind of tinny. You don't happen to have like a mic or something that you could use, or maybe a mic that's on headphones?
I don't.
Okay.
If I speak louder?
Yeah. I'll turn your volume up on the audio input capture there. You guys let me know if we've got even audio. Thanks a lot for coming on, bud. That email you sent me 2 emails, and I didn't realize that I didn't read the first email you'd sent me. I read the second email you sent me because you made it a funny title, which you knew that would get my attention. Because it's nothing personal. If people send me emails, I don't skip them over because I don't want to read them. Sometimes it takes me like a week to get to all of them. But and then I went back, I searched your name, and I saw the other email, and that was a good one as well. So yeah, man, thanks for coming on the show. He's got a YouTube channel. It's called, what is it? Derek Nance?
Yeah. And this is an old channel from a few years ago when I did a few do-it-yourself butchering for a paleo dieter from a raw paleo perspective. So I uploaded a few videos of me just harvesting my own animal to try to do a tutorial to help other people out who are struggling with sky-high meat prices and knowing where to get quality meat from.
Yeah, that's a big thing, man. A lot of people are trying to do like a carnivore diet, and they're buying just steaks. They're buying just ribeyes. And, I mean, how sustainable is that for your wallet?
It's not. When I started the paleo diet, I mean, I went to the stores and I tried to buy fatty cuts of meat, and you're talking about $10 a pound or more. And then you're eating 2 or 3 pounds a day on top of the organ meats, which are almost impossible to get good quality organ meats at the local butcher. So, I mean, it just wasn't economically feasible. I was ordering stuff in, frozen, paying, for the shipping, and it just wasn't a sustainable way of eating.
Yeah, I think a lot of people they miss out on the fats, too. People are eating, well, if you get grass-fed meat, there's not going to be as much fat on it, first of all. So that can be an issue with some people. But, yes, people are saying it sounds like you're underwater. I'm getting a lot of people are saying that the audio's. Do you have a phone? Like, could you use a phone with Skype to call? Because that usually has really good audio.
I do have a phone with Skype. I don't know if I have Skype on it.
Would you mind downloading Skype on the phone and calling back on the phone so we get better audio? Because everyone's saying that's really garbled, and even me, I hear you, it's real garbled. I'd love to. I want to talk, but I don't. People can't hear, and then they won't be able to really get the content.
All right, I'll give you a call back here in a few.
Okay, thanks a lot, Derek. Sorry, man.
It'll take a few minutes, but I'll be back.
Right on. All right, Derek's gonna come back. Sorry, guys. Audio issues. It happens sometimes. You gotta just hear me again. My freaking assault on your ears. If you want, I can just do the whole podcast as Klaus from Plant-Based News. And Leonardo DiCaprio is doing the most amazing, amazing work promoting veganism, because all the hottest celebrities like Beyonce and all the people on MTV and VH1, is that even a channel anymore? Is VH1 even a thing anymore? Sorry for the audio issue, guys. We're gonna fix it. We're fixing it. All right. Let's look at some more of this this awesome stuff. Where'd it go? Where'd my Instagram? My Instagrammage. All right, so I'm trying to. I'm sorry, I have so many tabs pulled up. I'm gonna try to clear out some of these tabs. I'm gonna cull some tabs here. Is going vegan the ultimate feminist statement? Metro.com, UK. To counteract the phenomenal support that Veganuary has had both in here and in the States, dairy farmers are apparently trying to make this month February dairy. Ooh, the patriarchy strikes back. Those frickin' patriarchies. Oh, those patron Nazis. Joey Carbstrong. Do the Carbstrong rap. I'm a vegan. Starving myself for the movement. Don't know shit. I'm a vegan. Making not animals my religion. Worshipping cows is my bag. Got no money in my pockets. Spend it all on my crack. I don't know if any of that rhymed. All right, is going vegan the ultimate feminist statement? Milk sales have been crashing, and that's causing the dairy industry to freak the F out. You see, as vegan propaganda spreads, at least they admit what it is, more and more folk are waking up to the fact that meat and dairy might not be the best things to consume regularly. Dude, meat and dairy, good meat and dairy, high quality meat and dairy that aren't pasteurized, that aren't fed the vegan foods, right? Meat shouldn't be eating grain. Cows shouldn't be eating these soy, wheat, corn foods from Cargill and Monsanto. There's been no culture in the world that's lived completely without animal products, and the closest one to it is in India, which has one of the shortest life expectancies in the world. Right? The per capita meat consumption is highest in Hong Kong. Right? Hong Kong has the highest per capita meat consumption, higher than any country in the world, and it's a province, right? It's a self-governed province. They eat more meat than anybody else, and they have the longest life expectancy in the world. I see a lot of questions, guys. I will read the super chat ones. Sometimes I read the random ones, but sorry, I get too many comments. I can't read them all. Thanks everybody for joining. Thanks to the mod squad out there. Daphne Reloaded, Kasumi Chris, thanks for hanging out. Where's Sverage? Sverage was here earlier. What's up, dude? Sverage eating a raw heart. A raw heart at a vegan festival. My only critique of that is you should do that at a vegan protest. The vegan festival, it gives them ammunition. They'd say you're being aggressive. They'd say you're being a meanie. Spreading toxic masculinity. This is Klaus from Plant-Based News. I just want to talk about Sverige spreading his toxic masculinity at the vegan festival. These poor vegans. All right, you see, milk doesn't just naturally occur apropos of nothing. Cows need to be pregnant to have a calf. Ooh, we all know how bad it is to be pregnant, right? How bad it is to have a family. Ooh, pregnant. They have to be pregnant, so they're not true feminists. I mean, this is this anti-natalist nonsense that we've seen. And who started Ms. Magazine and funded Gloria Steinem? Oh, but the Central Intelligence Organization, my love. Gloria Steinem has openly admitted that she was a CIA asset. Who funded third wave feminism? But the Rockefeller family. They openly did this. Openly. Right? So it's like you look at the funding for these fake movements, they all come from the same NGOs, billionaires. So you're not a true feminist if you drink milk. It's absurdity. Just the most absurd propaganda. Joaquin Phoenix doesn't eat meat. He's so enlightened, right? Hollywood celebrities who pretend how to be other people all day. Hollywood celebrities. That is who you should listen to. That's who gets to tell you when we should, who we should listen to, how to vote, right? What's real and what's true. These people who fake it their whole life in a whole society and community in LA run by pedophiles. These people are the enlightened beings that could tell you what is good and what's real. Sweet. Derek's back. What up, SA?
I'm back.
You're good? All right. Let's
Volume
see.
good?
Yeah, I think it's better. Let me turn you up again. How's it going, man? What's on the shirt? I like that shirt.
Grateful Dead.
Oh, right on. Right on. All right, so 9 years eating a raw paleo diet. What kind of got you started on that? What got you into the idea of eating a bunch of raw meat?
Well, trying everything else and not having it work was a good start. And it goes back years of, struggling with food intolerances and health issues where I couldn't eat anything without feeling sick. So I experimented with different foods and elimination diets and realized that grains and dairy and a lot of other foods just gave me allergic reactions. And so trying different diets, from vegetarian to Mediterranean to pretty much every type of diet variation that's in the mainstream and not having it work just led me to follow some really, really far out rabbit holes. And I got in touch with the Weston Price Foundation and started studying about indigenous nutrition. And coming from a Northern European heritage on the American frontier, what is our heritage?
So being a cisgender white male, ooh.
I know.
Patriarchy. No, I'm kidding. I mean, we were just talking about vegan feminism before this. I had these weird articles pulled up about, like, if you're not vegan, you're not a true feminist and stuff like that. Toxic masculinity. But, yeah. What else did you try?
I tried everything. I started out standard American diet, and going back into childhood, hindsight, I could tell I had issues back then, but nobody else could. I had allergies, asthma, chronic reoccurring ear infections, and a lot of things. Going into the high school years, I had developed migraine headaches, which around that time I found out were food sensitive. And, eliminating things like peanut butter and caffeine and MSG did a lot to alleviate a lot of the problems that I was having. But I was still eating standard American diet, big bowl of cereal or oatmeal for breakfast, club deli sandwich for lunch, and fried food for dinner. And it just wasn't sustainable. I noticed it was having an effect on me. So I started researching different diets, different ways of eating. And I went into other areas that, looking back, it actually made it a lot worse. Like trying to eliminate meat, the idea that, oh yeah, all meat's contaminated and the modern factory farms are putting out these poisoned animals. But just eliminating all meat altogether doesn't really alleviate the fact that I was malnourished and I had a lot of other nutritional imbalances. And so just replacing meat with poor quality vegetable protein really made things worse in my experience.
What kind of vegetable protein did you include?
Gosh, looking back, those soy mixes and it was just whatever they were cranking out at the time at the health food stores. And I'd go to the health food stores and buy supplements, and oh yeah, my minerals were low, and I knew I was deficient in certain things, but just trying all these different supplements and spending a fortune on processed foods just to get the right protein mix, it never worked out. I never really felt good on it, and I was actually having some really bad health problems.
What kind of health problems? So you mentioned the chronic ear infections, allergies, and stuff like that. And that's kind of stuff I grew up with too. Was that still going on when you were an adult, though?
Not so much. When I was a child, and I look back at my medical records, I was born, I think I had an ear infection when I was just a few weeks old and treated with antibiotics. And then I got better, And then a few months later, I go in for my 9-month immunizations. And then about 2 weeks after that, I come down with another infection. And then
you didn't get
I
enough
get
of the
better.
vaccines. You needed a double dose, right?
Y'all know it's steroids for the immune system.
Don't talk about vaccines. You get demonetized there.
Well, okay, I'm not
kidding.
really
You can talk about what you want, man. I'm just joking.
I mean, it's all in everything. That's it. It's not just the vaccine. So, okay, I had these ear infections as a baby. And then what is my first food after being weaned from, I was weaned about 4 months from breast milk. And my first foods, what are they? Apple juice and rice cereal.
Yeah,
and then
and people, a lot of people like to pick one thing that's wrong, right? So, it's the wheat, or, it's vaccines. But it's like, look, if you have a healthy immune system, maybe the vaccination wouldn't be as gnarly as an effect as if you were, if you were breastfeeding until you were 15 years old like I did. No, I'm kidding. If you're breastfeeding until you're a couple years old, had a healthy microbiome from your mom who's eating a good diet with a lot of animal fats, maybe you'd have a different effect. But if you're going into these vaccinations and you're getting 60, 70 of them nowadays like kids are getting, it's got to have an effect.
Yeah, my mother wasn't really well nourished as a child, and a lot of these problems go back, transgenerationally, 2 or 3 generations of malnourishment. People in my family had poor teeth. They suffered by tuberculosis and all these other dreaded diseases of civilization, and they ate processed foods, and they smoked cigarettes and drank beer, and they lived a really hard life, and they developed these nutritional deficiencies. And they fed their children cornmeal mush and oatmeal. My mother, growing up, they had a government ration. They'd get a 50-pound bag of cornmeal 1 month and a 50-pound bag of oatmeal another month, and then they had to forage for the rest of their food. I mean, this is an extreme example, but they grew up on the verge of malnourishment.
But there was whole civil, all of Europe was in a similar situation, World War II. If you're gonna talk about history and geopolitics and the use of food as a weapon, Henry Kissinger talked about using food as a weapon and the deprivation of food as a weapon against entire societies in order to dominate people. Even Plato wrote about using certain foods for the serfs. I think a lot of people can relate to that. The men went to war, the women were left home. They said, "Grow your victory garden." Eat your kale from the victory garden. We're taking the meat. We're going to send it overseas when we need to.
And that's where some of my ancestors hit it for the hills, and they lived up in the hollers. And my grandmother told me about going squirrel hunting with their grandfather every morning. They'd get squirrels for breakfast, and they'd raise hogs and chickens. So, yeah, they weren't getting anything from a government handout, but they were getting what they could. Yeah. And some of them did fairly well. There's a split. Some of the family, lived off of the grain rations and suffered, and a lot of them actually went out and provided for themselves. And there's a huge discrepancy between people who live those different types of lives. Geronimo, I think, went off the reservations when they wouldn't let him raise cattle. He was going to make a deal with the American government. I'll stay on the reservation. You just let me make my own meat. And they wouldn't do it because they knew how strong and independent it would make them.
Yeah. Isn't it funny that Skull and Bones actually has Geronimo's skull? This Yale group where Prescott Bush and then both of his subsequent sons, and also John Kerry, who ran against George W. Bush, were a member of this fraternity where they lay naked in a coffin and jerk off and talk about all their sexual escapades that they had and give all their secrets to each other. It's just blackmail racket that was involved in international drug smuggling and stuff. Just a bunch of really good, enlightened people. Skull and Bones. They got Geronimo's skull that they robbed. Supposedly, HW was involved in the theft of that skull and the digging it up is what some say. Interesting connection.
It was a college prank, and it was a statue of honor for them, just to desecrate Geronimo, that ultimate rebel, just the one last jab into the rebel spirit.
And what does he represent? He represents the real free man, kind of like the guy at the end of the savage who kills himself at the end of Brave New World, which is kind of Huxley mocking all the the former society and the former civilization, those people that would just be killed off. And then eventually just want to kill themselves because they can't even live in this, completely disconnected reality that was created in Brave New World. So it's kind of how interesting that it all kind of comes full circle there.
Oh yeah, and I see it playing out. You know, the Brave New World and the Savage Reservation. It's all here. You know, there's just different elements of it in this world where we live and where we share right now. There's elements of, you know, the Savage Reservation. I still think there's areas of the world that are still wild enough and unsupervised enough where you can go and live free.
Yeah.
It's just you're not made relevant to the establishment, the city dwellers, and the industrial combine. And as long as you don't interfere with their business, you're pretty much free to do what you want. It's just some people don't want to live that way. Some people choose to live in these controlled environments, and they're, you know, and that's the democracy. You know, it's the majority rule. A lot of people just choose to live into these controlled systems, and they enjoy it on some level.
Yeah. Absolutely. I mean, it's hard when you grow up, and I grew up in the suburbs of the U.S. You know, I mean, I had never really seen a chicken until I was like 12 years old. You know, we didn't have those foods. My grandma, she grew up in Louisiana, all kinds of crazy cousins and stuff. You know, I mean, that side of the family, and the southern side of my family, I always thought they were awesome. You know, my daddy came from Texas, but his whole view was, that's like, he had this thing about like, oh, trailer park people, right? Because he grew up without a father. His dad died when he was 4 years old, so he had this hard childhood, and he looked to the system as kind of his way of connecting. As his daddy, his new dad was, you know, school was the system. And it's funny, we end up growing up and looking at these artificial environments, so-called artificial, right? But these human curated environments, the human zoos and cities. And we think that that's what's reality, and that's, food comes from a freaking package. It comes in plastic. Meat comes wrapped in plastic. You know, that's what we think.
And that's where some of the stories of our past, you know, we can give birth to their way of life and bring it back. Because I think that we're in too big of a hurry to cut our umbilical connections to the earth. There's just too much rush. And I don't think there should be a big rush to transhumanate, to create this other species that's no longer dependent upon the biological rhythms of the earth. And I speak to my grandmother before she died. She told me their entire history of growing up in a cabin that my grandfather built. She didn't even know she was poor. Like, they were really, really poor, but she would know because she was never outside of that little backwoods holler that she grew up in. And then you know, after growing up in that, she got swept away from an Army officer that was riding through town, and just moved to Nashville and was living it up in the city. You know, country girl, first time in the big city. And
she was like the music scene back then too, right? Like, that was when it was all, the whole music system was there. So it was like the Hollywood of its time almost.
Yeah, I mean, the siren song, you know, drawing people out, and people just flocked to the cities. And they flocked to this new way of living, and they abandoned the old way. And along these old highways, you know, where my grandmother used to grow up, I used to drive out with her, and nobody's there anymore, like just a bunch of abandoned tracts of farmland. Nobody wants to live that type of hard life. They want the easy living, the lights of the city.
Yeah,
it's hard to blame them. I mean, there's a lot of excitement going on in the cities, and why would you want to sit around and till the land and work yourself tired to the bone every night?
Absolutely. And now it's going to be even harder. You know, kids are going to have VR porn. You know, they're going to put their VR porn goggles on, jerk off in virtual reality, go hang out with whoever their celebrity idols are, go watch Joe Rogan interview Neil deGrasse Tyson in VR, click in between their porn tabs and their fake reality. It's like, how are people going to leave this and go outside and go milk a cow? They think that's gross. You know, all those bearded people with sunburns go and do that. You know, it's like, it's hard. You get calluses on your hands. You get cuts and bruises. But shit. So all right. I want to go back to your grandma, like how they lived. You know, so they're hunting squirrels. They would kill a few squirrels every day, and then they had hogs. What else did they eat?
Yeah, they ordered 100 chickens every year out of the catalog, and then would raise them up, and then every Sunday dinner, my great-grandmother would bring their necks and pluck them, and they'd have fresh chicken.
Yeah.
So even though a lot of it was austere, they had to can their own vegetables, they had to make their own food, they had an outhouse, they had to wash their clothes by hands, and everything was done. They didn't even have indoor electricity until like 3 decades ago out there in the hills.
So then they slept with the sun, right? The sun goes down, they're going down. or had a fire in the house?
So just hearing that and being, just hearing the stories from my grandmother kind of made me want to try to go back to that life, at least in part. Maybe not all the way, but be able to bring some of the health aspects of that life, the way of just fresh air and exercise and just getting out into nature and fresh spring water. I'm a spring water aficionado.
Yeah.
I like to go out to the local springs and just collect my own.
Yeah. Oh, I love it, man. I got some spring water right here. This one's kind of a special one, the Guitik, but we got a spring on our land where we got to put up a water system and pump it up for our cows. But there you go, man. Get the glass bottle. So
Climax Springs, it's a spring probably about an hour and a half away from here. They have pretty good water.
Nice.
Those deep limestone aquifers.
People don't realize how much, all right, so you're somebody, well, let's go back. I don't want to get too much into it. And I can always have you on again because, I love your voice. I love talking to Southern people because my grandmother, she was a Louisiana belle, and she lived in Texas most of her later life, and I had some of the best conversations I ever had in my life with my grandma. She died a couple years ago when my son was born, after my son was born. And so I love the Southern twang. You got a soothing voice and a beautiful way of speaking. So your grandmother, she was raised on chickens and squirrels and hunting their own food out in the woods, and you kind of got inspired by that.
Yeah, my great-grandfather, she told me about her father and her grandfather. They were naturalists, and he actually had a job with the Forestry Service, and he had a half-wolf hybrid dog, and he'd go out into the woods and just live off the woods. And he'd also brew moonshine back in the Depression days, and medicinal wines like elderberry and stuff. And she told me that the first time she saw a car, there was a group of black people. The first time she saw a black person, they came all the way from Indiana to get some of her granddaddy's wine, and that's how they supported themselves through the Depression. So
Wow.
But yeah, she wasn't even aware of there's an outside world or automobiles or anything until she was, older as a child. Yeah. This was how far back they were.
Yeah, it's amazing. When I was talking to my grandma, it was a similar situation. They didn't have cars. They had horse-drawn carriages before, and then after the war, everything kind of changed in her world with the war. And then another big kind of epoch was Kennedy dying. She would always talk about that. When they killed Kennedy, I always knew. When they killed Kennedy in front of everybody, I knew. She was so sweet.
My grandfather would give everybody these Kennedy $50, like for gifts. And he'd always he'd drill a hole right in the middle of Kennedy's head, and people could use it for like a keychain. I actually have one on my keychain, the Liberty $50 of Kennedy.
What are those worth now? Aren't they like $50 a piece?
I don't know, but like my grandfather used to drill holes in them and give them to people for keychains. That's how much he thought of Kennedy.
I had a friend that used to go get 50-cent pieces from the bank in like $500 boxes and just go through it and try to find the Kennedy ones and then keep the Kennedy ones for the silver. That's funny. So,
but yeah, money is a funny thing too. I mean, part of my journey in searching for, what is an optimal healthy diet, it always goes back into the money. It goes back into fiat currency and what's the medical profit-based model. And you start going into all these different ecologies and see how they're so connected with each other.
You get Bayer Monsanto now.
Yeah, and then there's the anti-defamation against corporations clause, which means that you can't go on network television and openly decry the actions of corporations. There's some type of like fine print that all the network broadcasters have to agree to, and they're higher ups, and they can't let people like me on to tell my story. And I was censored on many different levels because a lot of these shows would want to have me on. My Strange Addiction, these shows that feature people who eat sand and cardboard and all types of...
They were going to try to put you on that show because you eat meat?
Yeah, well, and I was all for it too. I was doing Skype interviews with the producers, and I was going to play it up. I can be the crazy obsessed meat man. And I was going to do it. And they said the network higher up said that they wouldn't allow it. And I'm like, they'll allow people to eat the stuffing out of foam mattress cushions, but they can't have somebody promoting raw meat. And it just didn't add up.
That's so insane. How did you, I want to get into a lot of this stuff because you mentioned this in your email too. That part's fascinating. But first, how did you get to the raw? Like, so from going back to animal products after removing them from your diet for a while, did you consider yourself like vegan at that time, or?
Yeah, I had a lot of sensitivities to a lot of different foods, and cooked meat would just make me feel bloated. I'd feel sick afterwards. And of course, at the time, I was eating the chicken fryers at the local grocery, so I'm pretty sure it was all GMO stuff. And I was gunked up on the inside. I had a liver congestion. I had high blood sugars, leaky gut, digestive issues, enzymatic insufficiencies where I just couldn't produce enough enzymes to digest my food properly. So it wasn't just cooked meat. It was my general state of health at the time just couldn't handle digestion. And so I was struggling with all types of different foods. So I went back and forth, and I tried a high-fat cooked vegetable-based diet with a little fish, and it seemed to help, but I still couldn't get optimal nourishment. I was down to like 155 pounds. I couldn't gain any weight. I didn't have any energy, and I was having olive oil come out of my pores from eating so much oil and dousing everything with oil, trying to do a higher fat vegetable diet, which there was benefits, but it wasn't nearly what I was looking for. So I started studying, and I moved on to study the Western Price Foundation. And one of these guys from a paleo forum had a Weston Price link about the Native Americans' guts and grease diet. And something in that article just clicked. And it was like, why not?
What
why
was
not
the
just
guts and grease diet? What was it about?
About how the native Plains Indians would eat all parts of the animal, how they would actually take the intestines out and eat them raw, and the liver and some of the other organs.
What part of the intestine would they eat raw?
The large intestines.
What?
And
So,
it didn't specify in the article. They just said that.
It seems kind of important. It seems like somewhere if you eat the wrong part of it, you might be getting some gnarly bacteria that you might not want.
But here's the thing with the gnarly bacteria, it's all a myth too, because I've been eating raw intestines, and there's no part along the digestive tract that I haven't eaten raw, and I don't have any type of foodborne illness
No
from
reactions
it.
at all. Wow.
No, it actually is one of the most easily digestible foods you could possibly imagine.
So when you
especially unwashed.
So when you slaughter the animal, what's the first thing you do?
Go through it. You just have to collect the blood. I do the halal method, and I collect all the blood because I believe that it's a rich source of minerals and nutrients. So I use all parts of the animal. I try not to let anything go to waste.
Yeah.
So I'll bleed it out, and then I'll get it up on the skin and rack and skin out the basic belly area, cut the hooves off, and strip back the skin to where I can access the abdominal cavity. And then I'll cut into the gut. And then when the gut spills out, there's a layer, if it's a healthy, mature animal, there's a layer of fat that just surrounds all the inner organs.
Yeah.
It's not just a soot at the back of the kidneys, but it's also encases the entire intestinal walls. And it's.
But how thick does it get on your animal? You got sheep and goats, or what do you have out there?
Yeah, I use sheep because some of the heritage breeds of sheep around here tend to fatten up really well on grass.
Because cows here, you don't get as much fat in the cow, but the sheep, you get a lot of tallow from sheep. And then you do get a lot of, you don't get as much suet here, depending on where the animal comes from, and then seasonally too. But that's really interesting that you get it around all the organs up there.
And here's the thing with the development of fat, and I think it takes older animals. Cows take a whole lot longer to mature, and what they do here is they try to get them to wait by the age of 2 years old, and they're not even fully grown. No. They're like teenage cows that are not even fully grown. It takes 3 or 4 years for the CLA and the fatty acids to begin to accumulate in the tissues to where they're optimal. So there's some type of deranged law where you have to slaughter them before 30 months because of BSE.
So then that's gonna promote more use of antibiotics in grain probably too.
And that's another thing too for most grain-fed operations. If you feed a cow grain from the age of 6 months to 18 months, they become sick. Yeah. And if you let them go much more than 3 years on a grain-fed lot, these cows become morbidly obese and they'll keel over dead before you can even get them to the butcher shop. But if you put them through the slaughterhouse right on the cusp before they start to get sick, they can get that grade A sticker and they can pass as prime beef.
Yeah.
And even though they're full of all types of, genetically modified feed and vaccinations, hormones, chemicals, and just general pollution. And it's not even a safe bet for the grass-fed operations because they take these cows that have been bred to be feedlot cows and then they just put them on bad hay. And sometimes the quality in the grass-fed operations really aren't much better.
Well, the hay could be from, corn. I mean, the hay can be silage. Corn cellulose and all the stuff from, the what do you call it, corn husk and stuff that's been sprayed with glyphosate.
There's food producers, and I talk to butchers, and I used to travel all over and talk to ranchers, and they said that there's operations out of California that just go to the Lay's potato chip factory and they take all the potato peelings off the GMO potatoes and they feed that to their cows, and then on the label they can still claim it's all natural. But these are cows being fed potato peelings from commercially grown, genetically altered
Some people
potatoes.
will say, well, what's wrong with that? Who cares if it's GMO? That's progress. That's, it's science, dude. What are you, anti-science? Like you Luddite? What do you think is wrong with the GMO feed? What's the issue there?
I think we're tinkering with things we have no idea the ramifications. I mean, just because we can harness the genetic powers and just because we can use these forces of nature in a certain way doesn't mean we really understand them.
Right, you're not gonna be able to control. They blast these things with what's called a gene cannon, where they're just blasting in animal genes into these plant seeds and stuff to modify them. They have no idea what the outcome's going to be. The scientists themselves even say we can't really control this, but we just we'll get something right, and it's crazy. The book Seeds of Destruction, I definitely recommend anybody who's got questions about like the history of with the whole GMO revolution, the green revolution, and where it came from and why it was funded and why it's so big. Read Seeds of Destruction. Even if you're not concerned about the health issues of it, if you buy if you drink the Kool-Aid on it's no different, it's all good. Glyphosate's basically like Kool-Aid. It's great for you. It's super healthy. Even if you don't believe that, read that book. Read about why these people are consolidating the food supply. It's a good read.
There's lies of omission on all the research projects. All the really Frankenstein ones that turn out horrible, and the animal feeding studies gives them all tumors. They just throw that stuff away. They don't even publish the majority of the failures when they're playing roulette with the genes. All the failures, and then all of a sudden they get one that survives, and then that has some type of immunity to the poison they want to spray on it. And then 6 months later, they're like, okay, let's feed it to the human race without any long-term studies.
Good stuff. Patent that shit. As long as it's patentable, it's healthy, it's safe. And then there's really no regulation. So it's like the FDA and USDA say that, oh, well, these companies have to regulate it themselves. And then the companies say, oh, no, it's up to the USDA and FDA. We don't really do safety testing. So it's like it's really there's loopholes, and it's an industry. It's really
they don't know what they're doing. There's no way they can possibly know what will happen 3 generations down the line, because some of these genetic alterations get transferred into our own code through RNA transference.
Yep.
Our RNA actually reads these altered codes and embeds it into our own DNA. And so where it might not affect the first generation, but then it goes into the second and third generation. So people a generation or two from now, increase in autism, all types of cognitive disabilities, and the plethora of new epidemics that we're seeing right now. How do we know that there's not a correlation between that and the genetic modification that's been going on for the last generation? There's no way you can possibly say one way or another. And that's why I just caution people to have some skepticism. I don't say that I know for sure, but I know that they don't know for sure.
Right. So Interesting. So, all right, back to when you're cleaning the animal, right? You're cleaning one of your sheeps. We got to the
Okay,
grain
so I'm
fed
getting
and the fat because of the fat that's around the organs and stuff.
and it's crucial that the fat be of the cleanest, purest quality, because that's where not only all the nutrients are stored, but that's where a lot of the toxic elements are stored too. Fat soluble vitamins, fat soluble toxins. I mean, so if the animal's pure and the fats are clean, you should be able to consume every bit of it. And the idea that you just take this fat trimmings and throw it into the scrap barrel is just ridiculous, because the fat is so nutritious.
Yeah, and that's one of the best parts. And what's funny is what's cool is it's so cheap, right? I mean, you can get if you go to a good butcher that's got grass-fed animals, and like you said, unfortunately, even grass-fed sometimes is not the best quality, but it's still gonna be better than the grain-fed stuff. You can get suet for really cheap, and it's not that hard to make your own tallow. So yeah, so you take all that fat, you separate that, you eat that fat raw, right?
Yeah, and in the intestines, I'll take a little extra time because there's a coating along, especially the large intestine. It has its own fat layer, so you can strip the fat off of the individual layers of intestines as well. Wow. And just try to scrape every little ounce of fat you can off of the carcass. Yeah. Because for my diet, about 50-60% of my calories come from raw animal fats. So it's important for me to try to harvest as much as I can. So I'll scrape the intestines and the inside, the suet, the kidneys, and even the other tissues of the body, the eyes, the tongue, the brain. It all contains high levels of fat. So I'll try to get almost every bit of fat I can off of an animal.
Nice. And then what about the marrow? That's one of my favorites. I love marrow.
Oh yeah, the marrow is a really good source of good fat, and they say that the stem cells of the animal are contained in the marrow, so you get other extra rejuvenative properties from eating raw bone marrow.
It definitely feels like that. I like to cook it. I like to roast the bones. I've eaten it raw quite a bit. I just like the taste of it cooked. It's all buttery and nice. But okay, so all right. So you started eating the raw though because you felt like you just weren't digesting it when it was cooked. You were still getting so many health issues, and then when you started transitioning to eating more raw meat after reading that article, a lot of that stuff cleared up?
Yeah, within a few weeks, I mean, most of my digestive system just recovered, and I was having pains in my gut whenever I ate, and there's this pain in my side, which I always thought it might have been my spleen was enlarged or a gallbladder issue, and I could never really tell what the problem was, but it was just a chronic pain in my side, and that went away within a couple of weeks, and it was really just a sign that, I'm onto something. And I started out with the Weston Price diet before I went all the way raw, trying to eat local game meat. There's deer hunters at the time I knew, and they'd give me, fresh deer meat. And so I was trying to do lightly cooked and transition into a more raw-based diet, but I wasn't all the way there yet until I studied the guts and grease diet. And I had a couple of milking goats. That I had young children, and I was trying to get them on raw goat's milk because of reading on the Weston Price Foundation about raw milk. So these little pygmy goats they're a hassle. They climb all over the place.
Oh, they're like springy, huh? The little pygmy goats.
It's hard to contain, and they're just really a chore. So I decided not to go on with the milk experiment, and I just slaughtered them on some really, really cold, snowy winter day, and
How do you like goat meat? I don't like the taste of it for some reason. It's so tough too.
Yeah, that's it. The goats are a little tough and have a little stronger gamey taste. I don't think that they were bred to be as sweet tasting as a lot of the sheep meat that I've been eating, but it will work. It is good meat. It just has a stronger flavor and a tougher texture.
Carnivore and his wife, they got goats. They like goat meat. They get great goat liver. I like the liver from goat, but the meat, I like slow cooked. It's good because it gets real soft and it falls off it. But I guess if you eat mostly raw, do you ever cook meat now?
No.
Yeah.
No,
never. Hell no. Why would I do that?
Well, let me stipulate that I have been experimenting with cooked bones. Like I do. I'll take bones after I scrape all the meat off of them and boil them in a crock pot in vinegar and then I'll decant the broth because I really don't like the taste of bone broth.
Mm-hmm.
It has that cooked meat and it bubbles up, and the flavor of it is really off-putting. But I'll clean the bones, boil them in vinegar water, rinse that off, and then soak them again in vinegar water on a low heat until they dissolve. And then the little knuckle bones and the rib bones turn into like this really soft, crunchy material, and you can eat the entire
those ribs.
bone.
They melt in your mouth.
Yeah, you just crunch them off. But I noticed just rinsing off the cooked meat, they make them more palatable for me.
Yeah.
So I've been doing that for the last 4 or 5 months, and that's to alleviate the cramping and signs of like electrolyte imbalance. I was noticing that I'd get really, really crampy, especially if I couldn't get enough blood or seafood or other types of mineral salts.
Why not just eat salt?
Because it's a tough thing for me. I don't know if I'm an anomaly or if it's something just with the type of diet that I'm doing, but too much salt will make me feel bloated, and it makes me retain water. I'll get like headaches. I'll feel like just off after eating additional salt.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure if it's just where my potassium and my magnesium and my other minerals might not balance well. And I have the theory that additional salt, even though it might temporarily help balance your electrolytes, it can actually draw other minerals out of your body if you're not getting the proper mineral intake.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a synergy between sodium, potassium, and magnesium, and they have to have their optimal ratio. So I was thinking, if you eat the entire bone matrix and drink all the blood of the animal, and you just consume all the various parts and pieces of that animal, you should be able to have a good mineral balance, as long as that animal isn't deficient itself.
Mm-hmm.
And in sheep, sometimes I think they can be deficient in iodine and selenium and some other trace minerals. So I also supplement with seafood. I'll eat an occasional seafood and some fresh raw eggs and various other foods just to try to get the full balance.
Yeah, I don't think any culture really just lived off of exclusively one. I mean, the Plains Indians were the closest to a culture living off of one animal exclusively. But they'd also do berries and honey. They would get certain foods and they would use them. Seasonally available, of course. What do you think? What about honey and stuff? I mean, you ever try that? That's something that's one of the best carbohydrate foods in my opinion. Honey, obviously, raw milk can be great for some people if you can, handle dairy. But I think honey's great. You ever include that?
Yeah, I'm on an extremely low carb diet, so I'll eat some carbs. But honey is something that never really worked right for me. Like I like it. I like the taste. I'll feel good for an hour or two, but then afterwards it seems to foul up my fat digestion and any type of high concentration carbs in general. So I try to stick to small amounts of low glycemic carbs. I eat coconut. I do fresh salads, a little avocado, tomato, maybe once a day, maybe once every 2 days.
So raw vegetables.
Raw vegetables are.
You said salad, so I'm thinking raw vegetables.
I like leafy greens and herbs. Like not so much the starchy type of vegetables, but yeah, the low glycemic.
You're so sensitive to everything, but then you can handle the really kind of what people would call more abrasive fibers from the leafy greens. That's interesting. Like collards and stuff raw, or do you steam them?
No, not even collard. Just salad greens, basically.
Oh yeah,
leaf lettuce,
the light watery ones.
Light stuff, and I don't go more than a small bowl, and I really think that just a small amount of carbs and fiber is all I need to act as prebiotics, just like how a cat or a dog might chew on a little grass every now and then.
Yeah. But
they won't sit there and just dig out at a all-you-can-eat salad bar buffet.
Yeah. It seems like a lot of these cultures. I mean, even here, somebody threw thanks Oas Loch threw €5 on a super chat. Says, ask Derek if eating intestine helps with Crohn's disease. Are you into that idea that eating the similar parts of the animal might help? Kind of the Chinese medicine take, I guess, on it.
I'm an advocate for eating the whole animal, and the fact is, if you have some type of stomach issue, what is the most gentlest food possible for your stomach is the ground up stomach of other healthy animals. And not only that, I eat unwashed intestines. I don't think you really get much benefit if you go and buy the tripe. Yeah, that's been bleached, triple washed. I buy I butcher them and then I screen out the green ingesta and the majority of the plant matter. But there's a film of mucus, a biofilm that coats the entire intestinal lining. And I believe that there's factors in there, probiotics, prebiotics, immune factors, all that stuff.
You wouldn't be concerned with those probiotics, those bacteria being contraindicated in a human digestive tract? Like, how did the Plains Indians do it? Did they do the same? Did they eat it raw?
Well, and that's it. Like, you develop strength, and you develop immunity, and you eventually, through exposure, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. The theory that you can have these bacteria, and the bacteria themselves aren't necessarily bad. They produce enzymes that can elicit reactions in some people who are sensitive to those. Mm-hmm. But in other people, that will stimulate a positive immune response and strengthen your own immunity. And actually, you can incorporate that into your own body and meld with, the living enzymes of the intestines of another animal. And I'll drink the bile. I mean, I'll squeeze out the bile and I'll take a shot of it, and it'll
shots of bile. Wow.
With a little bit of pancreas, yeah. I'm telling you, and then it increases your appetite like tenfold. After a fresh
you think that helps you digest the fats? They make bile to digest fats too. Well, I guess they're turning they're turning it into fatty acids and actually digesting it as fat.
Well, they're growing organisms into their gut, and that's another misnomer about vegetarian animals. The ruminants are harbingers of these giant vats of bacteria, and that produce the proteins and the fatty acids, and then they produce these digestive enzymes that extract the nutrition from these dead bacteria, and they have the guts to do that, and we don't really have the guts to produce bacteria and extract all the proteins and fatty acids from them. We're better off extracting the proteins and fatty acids from animals that do that. Yeah. And then using their own digestive juices by eating their stomach contents and the bacteria that live and that feed them, the type of bacteria that do produce those fatty acids and probiotic enzymes, you can incorporate that into your own biome. Wow. And it will strengthen it. Especially people with Crohn's,
concept.
Who have been antibiotic into a sterility.
Oh, most people in the world. I mean, how many rounds of antibiotics did the average child had by 6 years old now? I forget what the stats were, but it's absurd. I remember amoxicillin. You used to take that, I'm sure. The pink medicine. You get like a slight earache, and you're like, let's go to the doctor. They give me that stuff that tastes all sugary and sweet, the lovely amoxicillin. And, I used to take those antibiotics like they're candy.
And, I remember. And then a few months later, you'd come back with a rebound infection. Oh, yeah. And then eventually, I quit going to the doctor when I was, older, as an older child, around 10 or 11. I just quit going. And I'd let the earache work itself out. And I began to notice, well, these things go away on their own. And eventually, your body develops its own immunity. But we're never allowed to stand on our own two legs. Here's what they do at a hospital. Prenatally, I've had 4 children born in a hospital, and I see when they go into labor, they test the mother for strep bacteria, different bacterias, and if the mother has some type of culture on her, they'll give her intravenous antibiotics while they're pumping her full of Pitocin trying to get the baby out. This is standard practice. And if a baby's born premature, even if it's just a couple weeks premature, a lot of times they'll put them on IV antibiotics. Because infections are so prevalent in these nursery wards that just for their own insurance policy, they give these prophylactic antibiotics, and it's standard practice. And just everything's so sterilized. I mean, from the time that they're born, that they're not really able to get the soil microbes that would build up natural immunity.
No, in most native cultures, they don't even wash the kid after they're born. It's like with our son, I think after like 2 maybe we wiped some stuff off, but there's so much bacteria that you want from the birth canal. You want it on your kids. So not to get too gory with you guys, but we left all them fluids on our boy when he was born. He was born back there behind that door behind me. He was born at home. I think the hospital situation for births is pretty absurd. But hey, everybody do what you want, no judgment or whatever. If there's reasons to go to hospitals, there's reasons for emergency medicine, obviously, but practices like this are just absurd. And not to mention how many whatever you believe about the efficacy of vaccinations, I think everybody can agree that we should definitely look at the amount of vaccines that these kids are getting, at least as a first step towards getting some sanity on that issue. Because making this you can't even speak about it. If you talk about it, you're a Luddite or you're a dangerous heretic. We do need to discuss these things: the amount of vaccinations that kids are getting, the amount of antibiotics that are being used in these hospitals, and all these freaking super bugs that are going around there. It's crazy.
Oh yeah, the bacteria are evolving into these biofilms, and so different funguses are merging with bacteria in these infectious biofilms that evade detection. They don't even culture in labs anymore. So a lot of people with a lot of these chronic mild infections, and bowel conditions, they have these biofilms built up as a result of antibiotic resistance, and the doctors can't detect it. They don't know what to do about it. And here's where it goes into the fact that there's no magic pill to kill a disease. You will only succeed in making it transform into something else. The idea that you can just magically say that this is a disease organism, we'll get rid of that organism, and then all of a sudden, voila, everything's cured is not right, because disease organisms don't live in isolation. They live in disease environments. So without that disease environment, that disease organism cannot thrive. And like E. coli, salmonella, and botulism are all cultured in the guts of healthy people.
Right, and there's hundreds of strains of E. coli, and not all of them are bad. Clostridium too. Yeah.
Even the bad ones aren't bad. They're there for a reason. They produce these catabolic enzymes that dissolve diseased tissue. And it's a horrible process to watch somebody go through an episode of food poisoning. They purge, diarrhea, throwing up, fever, and you look at that and you say, that's horrible. But if that person weren't to undergo that, what toxic waste would just be accumulating in the body, and then it would just come out in the form of some other disease, some other degenerative condition later on. And that's what we don't see. We don't see the connection from these bacterial and viral detoxes. And we don't realize that they're necessary processes that have been going on since the beginning of life. These viral mutagenic changes. Like, they're just now discovering about retroviruses in the womb of mammals, and how the retroviruses program the DNA of the newborn child and it allows
people have
it
known
to
about
adapt.
this for a while, though. I mean, genetic engineering and stuff they've been looking at these things for a while as ways of controlling breeding and actually kind of controlling the manifestation in organisms. This stuff is it's getting freaky. Let's talk celebrity gossip, man. Come on. What do you think? What color was Kim Kardashian's dress the other day? No, these are important subjects for people to understand. So when you talk about, all right, so the point you make about you're not gonna, the diseased organism is a result of a diseased environment or an imbalance in the environment. The organism always reacting to the environment. That's something that we're always talking about here too. Environmental factors can often be even more important than even dietary factors for some people. It's like if you're living inside, I mean, even me, like sitting here in this computer for 3 hours straight today doing this stream, this is not healthy. This is not, I will feel zonked after this. But getting outside, getting natural sunlight, these are some of the things that I'm always, making sure to do. And we work with clients. It's like a lot of people, they just never outside. They're just never out in natural light. So I think a lot of people watching this might, they might not be as wild as you and I. They might be a little bit more of a tamed environment. So what are some steps that you think, more of the, the normies out there can do to improve their health environment? We're just talking about eating the whole animal, right? And some of the practices you're involved in. What else is important to you?
Oh, yeah, and that's another thing, too, is we get into these meat-centric threads where it's all about the diet, and it's really not. It's about the whole living organism. And, at the same time I was adopting, my dietary changes, I was also studying about, the benefits of natural sunlight and how we have our mitochondria respond to ultraviolet radiation, and it increases our own ability to produce energy, not in the same way as photosynthesis, but very similarly.
Yeah,
Like just being
you
out
release
in the
nitric
sun.
oxide, and then you can recycle oxygen through. I mean, it opens up pathways where you can create energy without macronutrients or micronutrients.
And then the ultraviolet radiation encourages the growth of probiotic skin bacteria that secrete the precursors to vitamin D.
And will
all
kill
these
off
other
fungus. So, like a lot of people dealing with, foot fungus and stuff. How often is your foot that's all itchy all the time ever in the sun? Yeah, some of these people, well, never. It's in high heels all day at work, walking around, the mall because that's where I work. Well, it's like, well, get that shit in the sun whenever you can. That could be something people could do. Just practical advice.
And it's hard to do in modern society because, we're not allowed to walk around barefoot. I get in trouble if I let my kids run around barefoot. They act like you don't take care of them.
Right.
But, if you just take your feet out of your shoes, maybe put a little bit of coconut oil on them and sit them out in the sun for 3 hours, But people don't have the time to do that either. They don't have the time
They want to take a
sit back.
supplement. They're like, well, just tell me what supplement I can take. I'll take a vitamin D. I don't need to go in the sun. I don't have time. I'm on Facebook all day. And like, you can't supplement the freaking sun. That's the only full spectrum light device in the freaking world, right? Someone mentioning Jack Kruse might be right on some stuff. Yeah, he is right on some stuff for sure. He's definitely right on some stuff, but I mean, it's nothing new. It's just like you get outside, get in the freaking sun, right? And then you got a million different ways you can explain it with hypnotic language. But look, get outside, get in the sun. I think that's kind of the takeaway you could take from Dr. Jack Kruse and his mitochondriacs, as he calls his cult minions. But
there's a lot of stuff that science doesn't know about the energy, the universal energy that radiates through all beings, and you can get very mystical and very far out into it. But there is some truth to it, even if we don't understand and we can't explain. It just feels good.
When you look at science and even physics, when you get down to it, it's like the deeper you go, there's always another layer. There's always another layer, another level to the mystery, and it's. Science came, the modern scientific method, Francis Bacon, when you look at the history of it, it came from the alchemists, it came from occultists, and even just materialism is a metaphysical claim. So, it's like to believe in materialism, you're saying everything is just material. Empiricism is a metaphysical claim. Well, there's nothing else. If it can't be measured, it's not real. That's a universal claim that goes beyond, the scope of anything that can be measured, right? So it's like, these things, it all comes down to, if you go far enough, it all goes into, everyone's a member of the Wu-Tang Clan eventually. We'll try to stay out of too much of the Wu stuff because, I think people like practical advice, and I think a dude like you who's eaten 9 years of raw meat, it's really fascinating to me. You mentioned the electrolyte imbalance thing. Let's go back to that. Because this is the thing, a lot of people are starting to go for, ketogenic diets, even if they're eating, most people are doing ketogenic diet or doing cooked foods, including a lot of plant foods. We get a lot of clients who are just doing keto, but they're doing, Walmart stuff. Like they're eating Quest bars and they're not getting the results they want. So one step at a time, you usually drag people down the line. But the electrolyte issue can be big for some people when they drop carbohydrates. It seems like they want more salt, and then the magnesium, sodium, potassium balance, that can be achieved through certain plants, right? Or eating certain parts of the animal. It seems like liver can help with a lot of that for some reason. Also marrow. But 9 years, what have you learned about electrolytes in your 9 years of experimenting with all this wacky stuff?
Yeah. Well, there's no easy way to balance. There's no easy way to fix it. I've been working on it for 9 years, and I've just in the last few months come to a type of balance where I feel it's actually working and feasible and viable for long term. And that includes consuming the bones, but also chewing on the connective tissues. And there's really no easy way around it. People, want to cook and make things softer in the crock pot, and then that way you can get some of the benefits of the connective tissues, but then you destroy some of the living enzymes that allow you to assimilate that. So it's, 2 steps forward, 1 step back. And then a lot of people don't get enough overall minerals from their animal-based diet because they're not eating the entire animal. They're not drinking the blood. There's
a significant amount of potassium just in steak, though, actually. When you look, like if you're eating a pound of steak, you're getting a couple thousand milligrams of potassium in that.
Oh, yeah, potassium's a big one on me because I actually had a hair analysis done, which is something it's in the realm of, is it science, is it not? But I've had some really good indications from past hair analysis is where I've had potassium magnesium inversion. And yeah, I don't have any problem getting enough
So
potassium.
plenty of potassium, but your magnesium you're thinking was a little lower than optimal.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
And you weren't getting it from extracting it from the bones.
Right, because some land animals aren't as prolific. But even then, I had this hair analysis done like 3 years ago before I even started to eat the bones. I think there is enough magnesium in the bone structure, and that's really just an experiment and process right now, so I won't really know. But I'm going to continue doing this.
Do you think you could be like a special unicorn? Because it seems like there's all these people. And you look at Michaela, who I talked to the other week. She just eats steak. She's just like, I hate liver. I'm like, you can never try it? Probably not. It's like, she's like, I'll give it to my kid because I hear it's good, but like, I'm not gonna try it again. I hate that shit. So she didn't care, but she seems to be doing better than she ever has in her life, and she doesn't seem to get the the magnesium deficiency symptoms or anything. Same with Dr. Shaun Baker, straight up steak, just steak, and says he's performing better than he ever has in his life, and doesn't get cramps and stuff. He eats salt, of course, too. But yeah, it's funny. What do you think about? What would you say about that? Other people that say don't worry about it, you're getting it.
Because I was in the same boat early on into the diet. The first couple years, I was feeling so much better that I really didn't notice anything as far as being mineral depleted, because I was physically stronger and physically healthier and much better off. And then just like with veganism and vegetarianism, if you quit eating all the junk food and then start on a more pure diet that's not full of a bunch of adulterated ingredients, then you'll start to feel better. But after a couple years, 2 or 3 or 4 years, the minerals begin to strip out of the bones. And I think that we have reserves, and those reserves can last, and we can extract enough electrolytes from our bone mineral matrix to accommodate.
Losing bone mineral density, you think people could be at risk for that when they're doing like a just steak diet?
Over long terms, over long periods of time. Like, it might not be the first 2 or 3 years.
Why not eat more plants then? Why not eat more plants to get it?
Well, because there's oxalates in the plant matter that bind to minerals and flush them from the body as well, and sometimes it's not the most optimal source for the minerals. And I was scraping the bone marrow out. Now, I wouldn't just eat the bone, but I'll get into the knuckle joint with a knife and scrape the minerals out.
Yeah.
And I would chew on the connective tissue until it would turn into a wad of like gum.
Yeah.
And I would let that slowly dissolve, and I would chew it. And I think that we did a lot more gnawing on bones back in the primal days. If you watch a dog with a bone, and I've actually, when I'm really, really hungry and I don't have much left, I'll take the bones and I'll sit there for a half hour, 45 minutes, and scrape out the connective tissue.
So much work.
It is, and there's not any. And I've looked into $5,000 bone crusher machines, the industrial ones, and I'm like, maybe that's a worthy investment in the future, because we don't really have the hardware to, crunch bones with their bare teeth like the other carnivores. So we have to devise other methods.
Yeah.
It's
such an interesting concept. So the magnesium. I mean, one of the plant foods that I eat regularly is just cacao, 100% cacao, which does have some oxalate content, but also it's like supposedly the highest form of or highest content of magnesium of any plant food. I've never really thought I had magnesium deficiency. At times I used magnesium supplement if I sweated a lot. Maybe use a supplemental magnesium citrate, magnesium glycinate, but don't really use it at all anymore. And sometimes I haven't had cacao in a little while either. Don't really feel any difference, but it's an interesting concept. The whole electrolyte thing could be. Do you see that as like the biggest potential problem for people going for like a purely animal food diet? You're eating meat, fat, meat, fat, and organs, which would be like a better form than what most people are doing, which is just muscle meat.
It's one of many variables, because some people just don't assimilate minerals properly. It's something particular to them. They don't have enough digestive enzymes to break down and extract the minerals from the food. And other people have a perfectly well-functioning digestive tract, and they can extract enough minerals out of anything. It doesn't matter what they eat. And I think that people come to this diet from many different places. And some people who are already fairly strong in their digestion, it might not matter as much either way. But where I was coming from, very weak digestion and a lot of health issues, I think it was very helpful to have the whole animal and eat the bones, connective tissues, and try to get every bit of minerals I could. And then there's other factors too. It's a bacterial balance, and people don't think about the probiotic nature of meat, but I've eaten aged meat and even the high meat, and a lot of people just won't even consider it a possibility going into this diet. So maybe they're lacking in certain meat digestive enzymes and microbiological colonies that would optimally extract the nutrition from a meat-based diet.
I got to wrap it up here. I'm almost 3 hours. If it goes much more, I can't. I try not to go over 3 hours. I'd talk to you for days. I'll have you on again, though. This is just like a taste. This is like we got like a crumb of the knowledge that this dude, 9 years eating raw meat. You slaughter your own animals. I mean, we didn't even get back to the TV programs who invited you on and then backed out of it. We didn't even get into vegans calling CPS on you, CPS, right? Child Protective Services, for slaughtering your own animals, as if that's like, I mean, just, some of the crazier stuff we didn't even get into because we were, I try to keep it a little bit practical for people out there. Some finishing thoughts, what for the average Joe out there, for Normie Norma out there, who's just like, all right, like, this is interesting. I might live in San Francisco, work at Silicon Valley, in a city. I want to get healthier. I've been doing paleo diet. I'm thinking about maybe doing keto. What would you say are some takeaways for people?
People, like, it's your own path to health. Everybody's an individual in this, and I just encourage people to experiment within reason and let their bodies tell them what they're doing is right or wrong. Really learn to hone the instincts. And if you strip down your diet to few basic raw essentials for a long enough period of time, you'll clear away your senses and you'll revitalize your own instinctive eating habits, and you'll be able to better decide what's good for you. I think a lot of people are so inundated with dogma and artificial ingredients that they can't really make sense-based decisions. So just learn and taste and seek out different sources. Don't just fixate on one source and you think, I got it and this is all I need. Try to branch out and experiment and see where it takes you.
All right. Right on, man. Well, all right, so what about, average city dwellers out there? What about sourcing meat? What would be some things to say to people? I mean, people who don't have their own cows, don't have their own sheep. What about getting sources?
That's very tricky. And only way I found out how to do it is to look around for local family farms and go out there yourself. You can go to farmers markets and have these, Amish cooperatives, but when you go out to those farms, a lot of times, even the best intentioned grass-fed operations could be set right in the middle of a soy apocalypse. Yeah. I mean, I've seen it. I've gone out to these places, and you have this small cute little farm on the hill, and nothing but soybean fields for miles, and that water runoff is contaminated, and those animals aren't typically healthy, but you couldn't tell from the label. And
for those of you watching the stream, I pulled up a picture of the soy apocalypse. The GIF, the soy apocalypse GIF is on the screen right now. Ooh, yeah. Yeah, no, you're right, though, man. I love the word soy apocalypse. I'm stealing that. I'm taking it.
I just made it up.
Soy apocalypse now.
I didn't know it was a thing.
With a picture of Dr. Greger, like as the They Live zombies, soy apocalypse now. Can somebody make that? If somebody makes me a graphic, soy apocalypse now, with Dr. Greger as the cartoon, but in the style of They Live, They Live, the film. Please, somebody make that. Go ahead, though. Sorry, Derek.
Well, there are some sources you can use. The local Craigslist sometimes works. There's people who post, and even if those people don't have the animals you're looking for, if you start talking to people through the grapevine, you'll find the right person that's really obsessed about quality and that's raising food for their own and might have a few extra animals to sell. That's usually ideal. You find people who are raising food for themselves and that really care about the quality, and this network with these people, and you'll find different sources. And then there's places like Eat Wild,
Yeah,
a
I was gonna say
website.
that. Eatwild.com. That's one of the resources we put at the end. We got a resource section in the Ketogenic Edge Cookbook that we like Eat Wild. Let the dog in. She's scratching at the door. I would just leave her there, but it's like a wood door. I don't want to have to pay for it when we move out of this house.
My dog tried to come at the same time. That's an odd coincidence.
Nice, man.
Maybe she.
Well,
But yeah, well, there's a lot of different sites on. There used to be Agrilicious, and I'm not sure if it's accurate anymore. But you can look up local stockyards. Just be wary of picking animals up at the stockyard. Really, just go to the local farms and try to find people who raise their own. And then you can actually look up on Google Maps, and I've been doing this lately, and you can get an aerial view of people's farms. Like if you look up a farm on an address and you're like, you look up and then it's surrounded by, big agriculture or industrial areas. Like I'm real big about staying away from the industrial areas.
Yeah, you're going to get a lot of glyphosate contamination in soil around there, and people will be sourcing stuff from the local industrial areas to feed the cattle.
And there's coal plants. There's coal plants that run off into the water. So I've noticed like animals within a 25-mile of our coal plant just aren't as good for some reason. I don't know why. I just avoid them. Yeah, and there's articles about the coal ash leaching into the water. So like there's areas that are coal mines, you just want to avoid. And sometimes you can get a good aerial map if you find some place in a holler that's up on a hill, just nestled away from everything. Start searching in those areas, the further away from civilization. And it might take some time. I used to take a Honda Civic with a cage in the back, and I'd go out to the farms and just load up sheep in the back of my two-door coupe. And I'd bring them back into the town, and I'd butcher them in my backyard, and a lot of the local kids would see, and they know me as the Wolf Man. And you get
so cool. What do your kids go to school, or are they homeschooled?
They go to school now.
What do the kids know about Wolfman? They're asking you about Wolfman Daddy?
Well, yeah, my daughters like to talk about how I butcher animals and drink blood to the point where the social workers at school have to call to make sure that there's no type of blood sacrifice going on. Yeah. But they grew up with it. It's the second nature to them. So when they are expressing, what I do, there's no negative connotation. It's just other people that might overhear it might not think in the same enlightened way.
Mm-hmm. I think I accidentally just banned an innocent. I thought he was trolling with. Sorry, guys. Sometimes civilians do get hit. There's friendly fire that goes on, and I unbanned you. I think I unbanned you. I think you're unhid. Clutter monkeys. I thought you were trolling, but you're not. Whatever. Derek, thanks for coming on, man. I'm at the time limit though, and my back is hurting from sitting in this damn chair all the time. I gotta get outside. The sunshine, it's just so beautiful. Look at the window. I got it covered right there, but I got some beautiful sun that's calling my white Scottish / some Irish, I think, and French mixed skin. Look at that. Beautiful yard,
my backyard.
Man. I like that stone awning. I love the stone. When you gonna come visit me in Ecuador, show me how to slaughter my cows properly and eat the intestines?
I'd love to. Just let me know.
Hey man, you're welcome. I mean, you bring the kids out maybe next summer or something when the kids are out of school. You guys cruise out to Ecuador. Our neighbor's got a guest house.
We go on one big vacation every year or so, and so maybe in another year after I get all my remodel projects here.
Yeah, we got to build our house. We're renting right now. We got to build our house on our land. You got a beautiful life there, man.
Hey, but yeah, it's a small urban city. We got about a 1/4 acre lot, and I keep chickens and have a compost pile and a little greenhouse to grow some greens in.
Were you in a BBC documentary? Someone said they saw you.
I was. Yeah, a guy named one of these BBC food critics came out to find the perfect diet, and he came out and we did a butcher scene, and he ate some raw meat, and nice. But it was a few years back.
So Derek's got a YouTube channel. Do you still put up videos, or just kind of leaving it?
I don't. I abandoned trying to seek any type of publicity like a few years back when I was going through all the CPS stuff, and I said there's more important things in life, and then just fighting all the trolls and the people on my Facebook who wanted to
cause trouble. It's just too much trouble. More
Yeah,
than
it's nice
worth
where
it.
we live out here. It's like you mentioned some of those places in the world where you can live where people can not bug you. That's kind of part of the reason we like living in Ecuador. No one's going to bug you. In California, if you homeschool your kids, you're basically a demon who needs to be locked up. And so yeah, you can homeschool here. No one will give you too much shit. You can. Everyone's got animals and slaughters them. Everyone keeps guinea pigs. And for hundreds of years, they've been keeping guinea pigs here and eating them all the time. And it's amazing how many cows, goats, sheep you can have on a small piece of land, and how many people you could feed with that. So. Yeah, Derek, man, thanks a lot for coming on. I want to do an episode every day this week with you, but I don't have the time. If only there were more hours of the day. Thanks for taking so much time out of your day to join us here. And someone mentioned you're in a Vice article as well. Let's talk about all the publicity stuff and that aspect of it, because we're talking about meat being demonized in the media. We showed this Atlantic article that was demonizing Michaela Peterson. We're talking about all this stuff, and I want to get into that later on, but 3 hours is the time limit on this. So I'm going to end the stream. You guys check out the Ketogenic Edge cookbook. For those of you who are just trying to transition into eating organs and eating the other parts of the animal, it's a good resource there. I also talked about this book from F. William Engdahl, The Seeds of Destruction. That's a good resource. And, of course, we're doing another round of the Keto and Carnivore Collective starting on September 9th, going through October 7th. So if anybody's interested in that, probably not going to take on as many private coaching clients next month because we're doing the collective, which I find actually far more valuable and cheaper. So anyways, thanks for joining, guys. Remember, you're way more than what you eat. And eat meat and make families, guys. Peace.